You know Graybar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Graybar does that.
Take Me Out to the Ball Game, sung by Edward Meeker, Edison Record. Casey was baseball mad, had the fever and had it bad. Just to root for the hometown crew every Sue, Katie Blue. On a Saturday, her young beau called to see if she'd like to go to see a show, but Miss Kate said no. I'll tell you what you can do. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd.
Welcome back to Ghosts of the Minors, in which all of you out there in Radioland must identify the legitimate historical co-hosts of the show before the show, hiding among the fraudulent no-hosts. One was weekly on the air. The others offered only dead air. I ask you here and now, which of the following podcast voices did at one time exist? A. Tyler Maughan.
Welcome into the inaugural edition of the MILB.com, the show before the show podcast. My name is Tyler Maughan.
B. Jake Seiner.
Hey, Tyler. It is good to be here, trying this podcast thing.
C. Benjamin Hill.
Exploring the minor league baseball landscape all over the country, reporting on what the teams do to get the butts in the seats.
D. Sam Dykstra.
Hey, Tyler, how's it going?
You have an ear for correctness and an alphabet for extraneousness if you picked E, all of the above. Tyler, Jake, Ben, and Sam appeared on the first episode of the Minor League Baseball podcast in April 2015. Perhaps not coincidentally, the same month leaders from the United States and Cuba met for the first time in more than 5 decades. Then again, perhaps coincidentally. When the curtain went up on the show, early episodes featured notes from the Diamond, interviews with coaches and players, and pop-ins from members of the MILB.com staff. Over the years, Jake became a man on wire, specifically the Associated Press. Ben and Sam slid into more full-time roles alongside Tyler in the main host chair, and the podcast evolved into a show encompassing the entire minor league baseball experience. There have been interviews with future All-Stars. There have been creative chats about new logos. There have been drafts. There have been correct predictions. There have been incorrect predictions. There have been predictions so incorrect we don't talk about them anymore. There has even been a humble correspondent swooping in with tales of players and teams of minor league yesteryears.
You'll have to speak up. I'm wearing a towel.
In total, 500 episodes. But listeners, this podcast is no ghost. In many ways, it's just getting started. 500 more episodes, you say? Now that's the spirit. But for now, you'll have to excuse me. My producer Ben Hale is about to step to the mic, and I must forewarn Mr. Trout.
Let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
Hello and welcome to the historic episode number 500 of the Show Before the Show podcast, the official podcast of minor league baseball. We started recording this a moment ago, and as we started, my internet dropped out, and so we got like through the introduction of episode number 500, and then the baseball podcasting gods remind us You ain't so hot. Yeah, 500 episodes. Remember when you used to you'd record an interview and the Skype MP3 recorder wouldn't work and you'd have to text or call players back and be like, "Can you redo that interview with us? Sorry, we missed all of that." We're being humbled on episode number 500. They told us we'd never make it to 500, but here we are nevertheless. No one ever told us that. Tyler Mon, Sam Dykstra, Benjamin Hill, dudes, 500 episodes. Holy cow. What's going on?
Not much. I mean, you're starting with the sports intro, right? Of nobody believed in us. Every week we thought we were taking it to the man.
We faced adversity. There's been a lot of adversity along the way, but we're better for it. We stuck together, the three of us and Josh Jackson. And nobody can tell us ever again that we can't make it to 500 episodes because here we are, damn it. Darn it. We'll have to put an explicit on this one.
We're taking a hard pivot for the next 500 episodes.
We're going to curse constantly.
Yeah. You mentioned recorders dropping out and having Skype problems. That makes me think, and we're going to get right into the reminiscing, I guess. But that was Carson Kelly.
Carson Kelly, yeah.
If you'll recall, who has had a terrific start to the year this year. So, that's a kind of note to anybody who's ever been on the show. Hey, if you come on the show and you have problems, it could portend success in the major leagues. I'm just saying.
The long time and well noted show before the show bump, as the folks have known since the beginning of this show a decade ago. And as you heard us come in on this week's episode of the show before the show, you heard our little intros from the first time that we were ever on this podcast. 10 years ago, 2015, we started this show, which twofold. Number one, incredible to just make it to 500 episodes. Number two, to make it to 500 episodes in 10 years. I'm really proud. That means we've only taken off a week, 2 weeks a year. That's very impressive, honestly, that we've kept up this macabre charade for a decade now.
Macabre charade. Wow, I like that. That's a nice combination of words. I've been happy to be involved in this macabre charade. What do we have it in our records? The date of the very first episode?
Oh, I could find it. I can find the date.
I know it's been 10 years. Yeah, so we'll just say 10 years. But I'm wondering if it's how close to 10 years. Those early episodes are a little harder to track down, but they're all there. Like Megaphone has.
It's funny, yeah, because they sort of vanished for a little while. We had to I think we had to go back and re-upload them because for some reason they were gone. They didn't show up in our podcast feed. We had to go back and re-upload them. But it would have been April of 2015, which is wow. We were all much different people back in April of 2015. I had so much more pigment in my beard at that stage in life, and I certainly don't anymore. But yeah, it's been a while. We were all in different roles. MILB.com was then an entirely separate entity. We had not merged with MLB Pipeline yet. Benjamin Hill was only 4 years into going on the road, doing road trips, all of that. Sam Dykstra, you started with MILB in 2013, 2012?
2012.
Wow.
So that would have been the start of my fourth season.
Wow.
Yeah. And you by 4 seasons in, you feel like you're an expert. You've been through the ringer. You've watched CJ Cron hit a walk-off grand slam for an Inland Empire at 1:57 Eastern time that you are then asked to write up at the darkest hours of the night.
Yeah.
But it's crazy how much you think 4 seasons in, and then now this is my 14th season. Yeah, I guess that stands to reason, right? 14th season, and you're just like, no, there's still so much to learn about the game of baseball, but just how the minors works. Obviously, there's been all sorts of twists and turns with the drop to 120 and the movement around the complex leagues, them starting earlier, how guys are signed is different. Think about Yohan Moncada signing for as big as he did. The draft is different now. So much has changed in baseball in just what feels like 10 short years.
And yet so much stays the same. For me, I'm still the guy covering the quote unquote business and culture of minor league baseball. The establishment of this podcast was for me, by a certain metric, right in the midpoint of my career as my career stands now. I started part-time in 2005, and so 2015 would have been right around the 10-year mark of me writing anything for MILB.com. It obviously took me a number of years to establish this niche, and got part-time in 2009 and started traveling in 2010. So in 2015, I was 5 years into the traveling, and I'm still doing the core of that. But yeah, as Sam alluded to, we've kind of navigated a whole lot of twists and turns through this company and the industry and just the relationship of Major League Baseball and minor league baseball, and just a lot of things. But we're still here. The cockroaches of the industry is still scurrying around. No one can quite get that foot down and stomp it out. Not that anyone's trying to, but it's just such
we need to stop creating
cockroaches of the industry.
Yeah.
Can that be the title?
Rocky and Bullwinkle
500.
is the worst Natasha trying to shut us down each week, and we just keep squirming past them.
Yeah. So it's not like, we don't want to create a false narrative that like we're constantly under threat doing this podcast. But it is, a unique and comparatively niche concern, and to keep it going and keep it thriving almost.
I think so.
Yeah.
Almost. Well, it's kind of amazing, like looking back into the archives of the Show Before the Show podcast, because there are so many guys, we live in a good culture for sports these days, and remembering some guys. And if you want to remember some guys and you are a prospect fan, go look back through the archives of the Show Before the Show podcast, and you will get a chance to remember some guys, because there are a lot of dudes who we had on the show who you kind of think to yourself like, oh yeah, whatever happened to that guy? And then there are a lot of guys we had on the show who were like, oh, that's pretty incredible that we had, Alex Bregman was on episode number 60. Blake Snell was on episode 27. Max Kepler was on episode 44. We had like a lot of guys early on who were in those early stages of their careers, and we expected big things from, and now they have, actually made themselves into those big things. And then there are guys who I think certainly thought we were going to hear a lot from in their careers, and we haven't necessarily. And it is a good snapshot of what this journey is like for professional ball players, for guys trying to make it to the big leagues, stay in the big leagues. And it's certainly not easy. And, I think the best thing that you can be in this world of ours, in this game of ours, is one of the cockroaches of the industry, because that means you're hanging around for a little while, and that's a good thing, in all honesty. So we're going to reminisce a little bit about our decade of the Show Before the Show podcast, and then today you will hear from some of the most notable interviews that we have had in the Show Before the Show podcast history. Do you guys know? I'm going to put you on the spot with a little The Show Before the Show trivia. Do you guys know the first ever interview that we had on the Show Before the Show podcast? Episode number 1, we did not have an interview. You've already heard from episode number 1, because our guests on episode number 1 were Benjamin Hill and Sam Dykstra. Episode number 2 was our first interview. It was not a player, but it was an on-field personnel member. Do you guys know who that was?
I think I know. Well, Ben jumped ahead of me, so go ahead.
Jared Sandberg.
Jared Sandberg, AAA Durham manager Jared Sandberg, who was fantastic. We had him on. Okay, now do you guys know who our first ever player interview was?
Was that Mark Appel?
It was Mark Appel. Mark Appel, episode number 4. Now, I think on episode number 3, we did talk with a pitcher in the Yankees system at that time, Chris Smith. But our first big prospect interview was Mark Appel. That was episode number 4. I remember that episode. I talked to Mark Appel, and we're trying to figure out what is this podcast going to be? We're going to try to go 30 minutes each episode, blah, blah, blah. Mark Appel, I believe that phone call lasted 48 minutes, and I had to go back through and be like, well, what can I cut out of this? All of this is really good stuff. I had to listen to that episode, or listen to that interview, chop it down as much as I could. And Mark Appel turned into one of the most fascinating guys in baseball for a very, very long time. What are you guys, when you think back on, I don't know, do you guys even remember episode 1?
I remember, well, we were back in Chelsea Market then.
Yeah.
Were you in town?
I don't think so. I don't think I was for the first episode. I don't know. Maybe I was.
I remember
Obviously,
being
you can
summoned.
tell that we're recording this before I've gone back and had to edit all this stuff.
Yeah,
Because
that's
it would
true.
probably say, like, hey, hanging out of the offices at Chelsea Marketplace.
Well, I just remember being summoned to a room where you and Jake were recording. And, you have, we haven't even said this. We were talking about our professional experience. Your professional experience is being behind the mic. Like you were coming off stints in Altoona and Myrtle Beach and Australia and all these things. So it was like, hey, we have an actual bona fide broadcaster. And I'm just like, I don't know I'm a writer. I don't know what I'm going to say into a microphone. And I just remember starting talking and Jake like pointing at the mic, being like, you have to project into the recording device. And I was like, oh yeah, that old thing. So that's what I recall. I don't remember what I talked about. It might have been like a prospect primer type situation or like a
It
just
was
spring
according
training
to the episode summary. We talked MILB road trips with Ben Hill and prospect primers with Sam Dykstra. And we also talked about Jake and I had gone to spring training. Jake in Florida and I was in Arizona, so we talked about that a little bit. So we kicked off the podcast back in 2015 when our former boss at that time, Brendan DeRochers, sent out an email and said, something we're thinking about doing. Does anybody have suggestions on what this would be like? Blah, blah, blah. I sent an email back and, kind of gave him the thoughts that I had about it. And there was a girl that I was dating at the time who came up with the name, The Show Before the Show, which has lasted far longer than that relationship did. It was a really good name. It was a very good name.
we started on a strong note.
We did. We started on a very strong note. And just like sort of, I don't even remember how the conversation got to the point where it was like, okay, it's going to be you and it's going to be our former co-host, our OG co-host, Jake Seiner, who has long since moved on to his work with the Associated Press these days. Jake Seiner got Wally pipped by Sam Dykstra, if you will. Jake started out, and then Sam has been the Lou Gehrig of this podcast ever since, a Hall of Famer who never misses an episode. And that was
that's definitely not true.
That was within the first like 30 episodes, I think, right? Like you took over. I want to say you took over with, like just a couple of months into the Show Before the Show podcast.
Yeah, I think when you mentioned Blake Snell, and I'm like, wow, that was early. Or Alex Bregman, I remember doing those interviews.
Yeah, Blake Snell, episode 27 for our boy Blake Snell.
I remember messaging Blake Snell. Maybe it was for that, maybe it was for something else, but anyways, it's a good Blake Snell story. And just being like, hey man, like was hoping to talk to you soon. Let me know when works for you. And he's like, yeah, of course, whenever. And by the way, I have your number saved. Like he saved my number after the first conversation we ever had. He's like, just text me whenever. It was just the most, as you would expect from Blake Snell, given all we know now, like the most laid back guy to talk to. He was confident coming up, but he was also laid back.
Yeah.
I think that's part of his personality. I think that's what makes him so good. And obviously signed for a ton of money with the Dodgers last year. But yeah, no, it was pretty early on, I think.
One of my absolute favorite guys of all time, Blake Snell, one of my favorite early interviews that I ever did for MILB.com. And getting a chance to see Blake Snell turn into what he has turned into has been very cool. According to our summaries on the archives of the Show Before the Show podcast, Sam Dykstra took over on episode 20.
Okay. So
I mean, Jake, get out of here, Jake. No, Jake was awesome. It was so great to kick this thing off with Jake Seiner. Ben, back in the day, we initially just did a segment that we called Ben's Biz Banter, which of course now we have introduced to the masses, presented by Circle K, the official convenience store of minor league baseball. But we would have you on as our business of baseball correspondent every week. What are your early memories of the Show Before the Show?
Yeah, I remember being involved in like the early planning. I wouldn't quite say it was my idea. That's a little bit of a presumptuous claim to make, but I remember feeling at the time like, hey, podcasts are really taking off as a medium. We should have a minor league baseball podcast. And Yeah, being a little frustrated, I think that, it was just kind of getting kind of pushed into a direction of like, well, it's prospects and the players are going to be the main focus. Because doing what I do, it's never anti-players and prospects, but I'm always like, but what about, what the culture of minor league baseball? And I remember feeling a little frustrated. I wanted that to be a little more front and center, just the way I do in general. So for a while it was like, yeah, I'll do a segment, and I always enjoyed doing the segments, but I felt like a little bit removed, from the larger operation of the podcast. I was just basically like a weekly guest. And as the years went on, at one point I even dipped my toe in the waters of trying to find trying to maybe do a spin-off podcast. It was nothing against you guys, but just wondering like, I remember one off season I put together a little plan of like, could there just be just the we'll do a prospect one and a business and culture sort of one. But instead we hit on, and I'm not just saying this, like I think what has worked really well is just, incorporating my work and perspective just more into the podcast as a whole. So I really like what it is now, in that it is the entirety of the minors. And one week you might get a interview with a top prospect, and another week you might get an interview with a GM who, like last week, who brought Jim Morris into the ballpark, who now lives under the alias Frank X,
And we all believe, and we're all bought in.
Yeah.
100%.
So I like that they're, and I feel that that's that listeners enjoy that, like just that it's the minor leagues, and it just encompasses the entirety of the minor leagues. But yeah, those early days, I remember a lot of times meeting with Sam in a Chelsea Market conference room. They were sometimes hard to come by as the company grew and grew. And that was an old Nabisco factory, the Chelsea Market. So we'd be in these rooms with like exposed pipes and brick and, kind of strange aesthetics.
Constantly asking Tyler, is that coming through the microphone? Just
Yeah.
the bangs
Yeah.
that are
Can you
happening.
hear
The
us?
pipes clanging. Yeah.
Or sometimes we'd have to do interviews. I remember interviewing Pete Alonso in a cubicle in the corner and just having to constantly mute my mic and like,
Yeah.
because I didn't want that kind of thing. And I felt like it was an NPR interview, which is very funny to do with, he was called Peter at the time.
Yeah, Peter
But
Alonso.
now we know him as Pete, obviously. But like doing a very quiet interview with Pete Alonso, it's just not how you do interviews with Pete.
No,
Pete
that is
Alonso.
very
Yeah.
true.
And he brought the energy on his own end, so it worked out really well. But yeah, there were some ramshackle ways we used to get this show together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I remember all that. And talking about Jared Sandberg as the first guest, I was not involved in that interview. But Jared Sandberg, back when he was managing Bowling Green, he started following me on Twitter and interacting with me. And I was like, wow, I don't get much like player coach interactions on Twitter, especially at that time. So I was like, I like this guy. He's a manager, and he's all about player development, and he's a former player himself, and he's a Sandberg.
Yeah, I was going to say.
He's Ryan's nephew.
Nephew.
Yeah. And so we were friendly on Twitter, and one day he emailed me, and it was a picture of him in the Durham, and at this point he had moved on to manage the Durham Bulls. And he emailed me, and he was just like, check this out. And it was a picture of him like in his office wearing the Durham Bulls Star Wars uniform. And it was like all gold. Like, which one's the gold one?
C3PO?
C3PO.
Which one's the gold one?
Yeah. C3PO, R2D2. I can never get them straight. But yeah, he was in this like C3PO uniform. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, all right, if he emailed me and I'm a reporter, like, that's funny. He wants to share it. So I tweet out this picture of Jared Sandberg in a C3PO uniform. And I get a text from Scott Carter, guy I knew with the Bulls. He was at Fresno for a long time. And we were very friendly, but he just texted me. He's like, yo, where'd you get that picture? And I was like, oh, no. And I was like, Jared sent it to me. And he's like, we haven't released those yet. Like, please take that down. In the meantime, Cut 4, MLB's like official
man.
oddball baseball, had retweeted it. So it had hundreds, if not like thousands of likes. And like the team is freaking out. And then Jared emails me and he's like, oh, I guess you can't trust anybody now. And I was like, oh man, I didn't know. Like, you email a reporter a picture of you in a uniform. I thought it was something you were sharing, because like that's the type of stuff I share. And then I saw Jared maybe the following year when I visited Durham, and he was still there. And we were friendly about it. And yeah, I just think he was like coming at it from like, this guy likes this kind of stuff. I'll just share it with them. I should have said like, hey, is it okay if I share this? Um, it's obviously water under the bridge, which is why I'm sharing that story now. But it's just a funny story with Jared Sandberg, my leakage of the Durham Bulls Star Wars uniforms and him in a C3PO all gold getup.
But I think that speaks perfectly to what you're saying, right? Is that there is this Venn diagram of minor league baseball, and that Jared Sandberg, you would think every day, and trust me, like he was a very successful manager at Durham, still works in player development with the Rays, was up in the major leagues with the Mariners, I think, for a bit. But so laser focused on the players and all that. But like they have to wear those uniforms. They're the ones who are actively being surrounded by, and I say this in a positive way, the circus of minor league baseball. All of these guys are affected by every aspect of this. Every corner of minor league baseball touches everybody, whether it's, you get a Max Clark and Kevin McGonigal in West Michigan. That's good for West Michigan. Like the prospects I'm talking about, that brings more fans to the ballpark. The promotions that Ben is talking about, the players have to wear them. Sometimes they really like them and they really lean into them, or, in Jared Sandberg's case, they leak them to the press. All of this stuff touches each other a lot. And I think, like you were saying, Ben, like we found that lane. There are a lot of baseball podcasts, right, that are going to tell you who's up, who's down, who's playing well, what the standings are each week, et cetera, et cetera. They all do a tremendous job. There's a lot of prospect podcasts now, and they all do, including our sister show, MLB Pipeline. Those guys are talking about prospects, draft prospects each week. That's my day job. But like this is where if you show up to the ballpark, and you heard about something, like it's gonna come from this show. And I'm really proud of that we found that lane. And it took us 500 reps, but we got there. Right?
Yeah.
Man, I hope so.
We're rounding.
I hope so.
We're rounding into
we are.
form right
We're
now.
getting into form now.
It's funny. Me selling everybody on the next 500. It's like, no.
Yeah. I mean, what you need like 1,000 at bats in the minors.
10,000 hours to become
10,000 hours. So we'll get there.
Pretty much how long we've been looking at each other through computer screens. 10,000 hours. I will say, looking back through the archives, it's kind of stunning how many more hits than misses we've had in talking with prospects. Like you scroll through these pages of our, episode summaries, and it's like, man, we had that guy on, we had that guy on, we had that guy on. There are very few guys that you look back on and think, I don't even remember that dude. What do we have him on for? And that's really cool. And of course, on top of all of that, hearing Ben's stories, Josh Jackson, Ghost of the Minors came along as what kind of felt like this new thing that we were trying and we were going to figure out, and it was going to be a cool addition to the show. But like, I don't know, we'll see how long it lasts. Ghost of the Minors has been on for like 3 years of this podcast now, which is, a substantial portion. Josh did 166 episodes of Ghost of the Minors, which is insane. Like the workload for Ghost of the Minors is incredible. But between the prospects conversations, we've had a lot of very good conversations. We've had a lot of very fun and hilarious conversations. We've also had, conversations that we took off the podcast, not off like we had to remove them from the podcast, but guys we got a chance to talk with after we were done recording, had hilarious interactions. I'm pretty sure that it was Colby Allard who we had on the show, who was fantastic, was a great interview, was hilarious. And I remember after we got done, he sent me a text. Colby Allard now in the Guardians organization, a guy who's been in the big leagues up and down with some different clubs, was a first-round pick for Atlanta back in 2015. But I remember Colby Allard texting me when we got done and saying, hey, my picture on MILB.com is terrible. Do you guys know how I can change my headshot? Just like dumb stuff like that. I remember a few years ago we had I believe it was Gerard Gilberto on to talk about a story he wrote about the son of the guy who played Biff Tannen in the Back to the Future movies. And then like Biff Tannen, the actor, got all grumpy on Twitter and started subtweeting us because we had Gerard on and didn't have his son on to talk about the story. And we were like, yeah, but Gerard Roads the store. What's your problem, Biff Tannen? I remember, talking to Sean Murphy, who was then in the Oakland A's organization as a prospect before he had made his big league debut. Great conversation at spring training. I believe that this was at Tempe Diablo Stadium after a spring training matchup against the Angels. I almost made Sean Murphy miss his bus. We're having this great conversation. All of a sudden, the bus a little ways away, like he could see that the doors had closed to the cargo area down below, and the bus had lifted up like it was going to drive off. And he goes, "Oh, I gotta go!" And Sean Murphy just bails and starts running to the bus. I almost made Sean Murphy miss a bus ride at spring training. Like there are these little moments that you remember from the history of the show that, nobody else got those experiences. And that's very cool. The fact that we've been able to do this for a decade is so much fun, and very grateful to have gotten this experience.
And just to speak about how far the industry has come from a business side, like Ben, I remember we brought you on once to talk about bacon versus tacos.
Yeah.
Because it was the very early days of food identities, and Fresno had the tacos and Lehigh Valley had the bacon. And that's when like bacon was big in everything. So it's just like, oh, they cornered the market on this. Of course, they're the Iron Pigs. That kind of makes some sense. And Fresno, we've talked plenty about the taco history in that area, but it was just like, oh, here's the two teams on opposite sides of the country and two different leagues from AAA at the time when Fresno was a AAA team. And now every week we're talking about a new food-based identity, and we're learning new things about each region of the United States. I've learned more about Akron, Ohio than I ever thought I would.
It always comes back to Akron.
It always comes back to Akron.
Salads and JoJo's and white fruit.
Yeah, the amount of unique food items that I had no clue existed in Akron, Ohio.
Yeah, Pensacola, I feel like comes out with great ones every year. Jacksonville, we're constantly talking about. And these are areas that, without this job, without this show, even, I would maybe read about it with Ben, but like it's been an opportunity to actively participate in getting the word out and sharing that with you guys and seeing how that part of the industry has grown. And, and not to pump our tires too much, but like getting it out there in that way has aided with how popular this stuff is. And that cycle kind of continues.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And I love talking about it. And, being primarily in the world of writing, and, there's more and more video these days and podcast, and this job is much more multimedia than it ever used to be. But being a writer, first and foremost, it was, I found I enjoyed just talking about this stuff too, and having a looser, more informal way to talk about it. And, I think that's something I've really enjoyed. And I've mentioned this before on the podcast, but, for a long time when fans would approach me at ballparks, it'd be like, oh, I read your blog or I follow you on Twitter. And at one point, very much into the mix of those interactions, it became like, I listened to you on the podcast. And that was one of my first indications that like, oh yeah, this is like a really valuable tool in the larger arsenal of getting these stories out there. And so it's always been important to me to be part of this, because I do think there are a lot of people who might read some of the articles, might follow on social media, blah, 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 but this is their primary way to engage with the minor leagues writ large. And I think we all take that very seriously. Totally pivoting, but 10-year anniversary or 500 episodes. Tyler, I remember there was one time that we did a segment and you were mad at me. Do you have any idea what I'm talking about here?
No.
And for a long time afterwards, we never like talked about this directly, but for a long time I was like, Tyler, come on, man.
Oh, man, we're going to do a therapy session now.
Yeah,
I know this is family therapy very quickly.
Yeah, here's the story. Let's see if this comes to mind. This was like when you were still, writing an editorial producer, writer role for MILB.com in addition to the podcast. And you would work some night shifts. And there was a game with a crazy like hidden ball trick play. And you wrote a story about the hidden ball trick and went into great detail about how it came to be and how it was pulled off with a lot of quotes. And I was reading it. I was like, this is so much like material on a hidden ball trick. And I cut and pasted the like number of words in the article and then like quote tweeted, like, if you ever wanted to read 1,100 words on a hidden ball trick, like check out this story. I thought it was like being a little bit of a jerk, but like, hey, we're on the podcast, we banter.
Wait a minute. You thought You thought that it was being a little bit of a jerk. Like you knew right out of the gate it was being a little bit of a
Yeah,
jerk.
but I was also thinking like Tyler. We
Also,
banter on the
evidently, it was Jermaine Curtis of the Rochester Red Wings. He and relief pitcher DJ Baxendale, who they retired Charlotte's Kevin Smith. This was April 18th, 2018, apparently, according to a Google search, unless it was a different
Yeah.
one.
And then you started kind of like subtweeting, like, yeah, well, I enjoyed this story, but, I guess some people thought it was too long and stuff like that. And then I walked by Kelsey Hennigan and one of our coworkers, and she was like, I think Tyler's mad at you because
The
I guess you were
ultimate
like,
pot stirrer.
you were like slacking, like, I guess slacking and like kind of complaining about it. And I half felt guilty, like, oh man, I didn't want to make Tyler mad. I just thought it was this kind of banter, but half like, come on, man, I'm just joking around. And then we had a segment to do on the pod. It was just the two of us. And I remember you were like, hey, what's up? And like, I was like, Tyler's mad at me. And then I just couldn't bring it to be, I don't know why I didn't just say like, hey man, I'm sorry about my snarky hidden ball article tweet. But we went through this segment where you were like really checked out. And I remember you like are eating lunch and just like taking time to like just like eat and chew and just be like, I don't want to be here with this guy. And then for a long time after that, maybe this didn't register with you at all. I was like, man, I don't think Tyler likes me. And I had to just kind of work through it. And then we got to a point where I was like, I guess we're cool. But we never talked about it. Does this ring a bell at all?
7 years later.
Yeah.
Now we got it. I got to go back and read this story now.
Yeah. Do you remember being angry about this, or was I just overly sensitive about it?
Yeah, I don't remember that. I don't remember that at all. I do vaguely remember. Well, I don't really remember the story, but I do remember the picture of this of Jermaine Curtis, which is on the story. No, I don't remember that. I also don't. It's not the most. No, we had a hidden ball trick in the World Baseball Classic qualifier in February, and I just did not get it at all at the time. I was like, what the heck just happened here? Like I was writing something in my scorebook. Ryan and I were talking about something, and then all of a sudden something happened. I was like, what? What was that? Yeah, no, I don't. But I'm still mad at you. I don't remember it. But I still am. Although, even if I wasn't, that if you walk by Kelsey Hennigan, she's just going to be like, oh, here's an opportunity for me to drive a wedge between Ben and Tyler. Let's do it. Let's hammer the stake in here. Tyler's mad at you, Ben.
I should not have dragged Kelsey into this. I just remember feeling sensitive about it and her mentioning.
I just want to point out that you did say right out of the gate, I knew I was being kind of a jerk. So it wasn't entirely like here's a jocular thing we're gonna put out about.
Yeah, I think sometimes I miss the mark a little bit. I think Sam knows. I just sometimes just riff and not to make excuses, but like growing up with brothers, I'm always just like looking for like goofy insults and digs, and sometimes it's like I'm like, oh, I don't know if that landed. Oh man. But
now we know. Anybody else who has been mad at any of us on the Show Before the Show podcast, you can feel free to email us at podcast@milv.com. No, yeah. I also will say, like, as far as fan interactions that we've gotten over the 10 years of the show, that's been super cool. Like I was thinking about this last night while I was trying to think of people who, have like been big time contributors over the course of the podcast. And, back in 2020, we did the minor league baseball fan of the year because we didn't really have anything baseball related to talk about until July, of that year when we didn't have a minor league season. We didn't have a major league season until the 60 game season came along. But I was thinking about, like, we used to get emails from people who I think are still tuned into the podcast, but I remember Kevin Delaria. Remember Kevin Delaria, who Kevin might be tuned in to this week's episode of the show. But Kevin used to email us like on a pretty regular basis about, what he had. I remember Kevin's name because he is he works at a church in Pennsylvania. He is a rector at a church in Pennsylvania. And, like, one of those things that I never even thought about. You just kind of think from our standpoint of like, oh, well, here's a cliche minor league baseball fan who's like, this guy is, I don't know, he's 52 years old and his kids are in high school and he likes going to minor league games. But then like you start learning about people's lives who are interested in the show or interested in minor league baseball, interested in prospects or interested in the business stuff. And you sort of realize like, oh, people find this really fascinating. Like we're just three friends who get to talk about this stuff. But the fact that there are people who tune in week after week and are excited for new episodes of the show and like have caught on to our jokes or, know things about it. Like I got emails from people congratulating me on getting married a couple of years ago, just because they like heard about it on the podcast. Like we built this little family that I know I did not expect when we kicked off the podcast. I don't think we knew what the target market would be for us. And we've found like such a wide swath of people that are interested in this. And that's amazing to me. And the fact that we started getting emails from people back in 2015 when we started this, and Lynn Smith, who has been a fan of the show for so long, the amount of people that Ben has talked to on the road that then turn into listeners of the show, and people who we are still constantly hearing from. Every single time that someone in the company comments on something that they heard on the episode of the show. Dan, I don't know how to say Dan's last name. Is it Sichalski?
Yeah. We call him DC.
All right, good.
Yeah.
DC. That's a way easier way to do it. But, like Dan Sichalski is a guy who I have followed on social media for years and years and years. And the fact that like Dan listens to the podcast, Dan's the senior manager of content operations for MLB.com. But like there are people in the industry that listen to the podcast. I'm like, oh man, I gotta be on our game. Like that's amazing to me that we have known and done this for this long. And yeah, as Sam noted, like we found this little community. And that's incredible to me. And I'm very grateful for that. It kept us going, through 2020 when things were really dark and we had no idea what was going to happen, not just with the podcast, but with minor league baseball at large, with our jobs, with especially for, me being on a different track than these guys, being a part-timer and, having lost my broadcasting work and just hanging on to this writing job at the time and trying to figure out like, is this ever going to come back? The fact that we had people who kind of lifted us up in that time was really amazing. And to be 5 years out from that and have, left an impression on those people who have stuck with us is really cool. None of this happens without the people who tune in week after week. And for so long, we had really no idea what this podcast was going to be or the impact that it was going to have, or even if it would last. I mean, I knew when we started, like, yeah, we probably got a year or 2 years that they're going to give us to try this thing out. But I don't know, like the people at MILB could have gotten to the point where they said, this isn't really doing anything for us. It's not moving the needle on anything. We don't need this podcast anymore. And here we are 10 years later and we've somehow made it. And that's very cool.
Yeah. And I think, this is where we probably pivot to interviews and all that. But I think you got, you hit the nail on the head there, Tyler, because that's kind of what I was getting at before, is like finding that lane and talking about how things have become popular that have been on this show either first or early. But a big part of that is the audience, is people taking what they hear here, getting excited by it, bringing it to other people, or sharing that excitement with us and giving us that feedback and being like, hey, I really liked hearing about, the origin of this identity, or, the team just changed its name, and, oh, you guys have an episode on where that came from and an interview with the people behind the creative decision. People really seem to have responded to that. And that's where all this comes from. Yeah, we're putting in the work here, but if there's no audience, if there aren't people to get excited about it, this show doesn't exist. So thank you to everybody who has listened over the years, who comes back every year, who listens to us in the off season. That still drives me crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That drives me crazy. Like is insane to me that we have an audience in the off season, because there is still so much to talk about across minor league baseball, even if games aren't happening. So thank you everybody for sticking with us, watching us grow, listening to us grow, and getting us to this point.
Yeah, watching us age, watching us.
Except for Sam.
Our voices are all deeper now.
Yeah, watching us.
Sam hasn't aged. If we had a video component from 2015, I feel like I would look back and you would look largely the same.
Yeah, well, Sam no longer wears those little beanie caps with the propellers.
With the propeller on
true.
top.
Yeah.
That's the big change for. Did you have
I don't bring the big
then?
lollipop with me to the recording anymore.
the gigantic rainbow lollipop. Sam's also
That's how we
wearing,
knew
like,
the show was over. If I got
he's
to the
wearing
center of the lollipop,
Yeah.
his
Like,
knickerbockers,
Sam,
and
do
he's
not
got
take that slingshot out of your back pocket.
he's got knee-high socks and dress shoes on for some reason while wearing his knickers. Did you have the beard when we kicked off the podcast back in 2015? Were you a bearded man back then?
yes. Well, I came and went as a bearded man.
Oh, well, it's amazing stuff. I was gonna say, and as we pivot to our player interviews on this week's episode of the show before the show, an email in my inbox from yesterday, which just goes to show you how keyed in we have been to the future stars of Major League Baseball, because both players of the week in Major League Baseball this week are former guests on the Show Before the Show podcast. I was going to say that, and then I think only one of them was. Fernando Tatis Jr. of the San Diego Padres. I thought we had Dylan Moore on at some point, but looking through the archives, I don't know if we ever actually had Dylan Moore on. But
I don't believe so. But
dang it.
Don't call him Dylan Moron. He's a smart guy.
We had Dylan Moore on. Well, anyway, we had 50% of this week's episode, or of this week's honorees. So with that, we are going to go back into the archives and bring you some clips from some of our favorite interviews in years past. You will hear from some of the stars of baseball today. You'll hear from some of the most colorful characters we've had on. You will hear some of the things that got us to this point. 500 episodes of the Show Before the Show podcast. Goodness gracious. We're going to step aside and kick this thing off on the other side of the break as we look back at the first decade of the Show Before the Show.
Over 10 years of the Show Before the Show, we've interviewed literally hundreds of players, from the top overall prospects in baseball to those with short but notable careers, front office members of teams from coast to coast, and other people in the minor league baseball universe. We've done interviews with international prospects through the help of interpreters. We've heard from broadcasters about their favorite calls and fans on what makes them love minor league baseball. And on this, our 500th episode, we take a look back. Over the next little while, you'll hear from some of the interviews that we've enjoyed most. You'll hear from players who are now household names from back when they were just trying to figure out life in the low minors. Guys like Tarek Skubal and Julio Rodriguez before they won American League accolades. Tyler Stevenson in the early days of the COVID pandemic. Vinny Pasquantino from his time in AAA. You'll also hear from players looking back on their careers making an impact in the game, like minor league home run king Mike Hessman and Tim Dillard nearing the end of his playing days before joining the Brewers broadcast team. You'll hear from coaches embarking on professional journeys like Rachel Balkovic, broadcasters setting new standards for what's possible in the booth like Emma Tiedemann, front office members living out their summers in the minors, and fans who make the game what it is. And through it all, we hope you'll hear the things that have made you love and listen to this little show throughout a decade. We couldn't have done it without you. Grab your favorite baseball snack or beverage or ice cream helmet, sit back, and enjoy.
The minor league regular season is over across the board, and some postseasons already rolling. A lot of them get started here today and tomorrow. We're recording on Wednesday, but one of the leagues that is already full bore into the playoffs is the Northwest League, and one of the stars in that circuit already is the top pick in the draft from the 2015 MLB first-year player draft, Dansby Swanson of the Arizona Diamondbacks organization and the Hillsboro Hops. Welcome, Dansby. It's good to talk to you.
It's been awesome so far. The guys have treated me just like any other person, which I think has been, like a blessing, just because sometimes, you can get treated a little bit differently, but, they just see me as a guy like them, and I'm just out here trying to play and, reach a dream. So they've been great. They're all passionate about it, and they love playing. And we kind of created a college-like atmosphere, which I've thoroughly enjoyed, just because you hear, all the stories about how pro ball is just, all for yourself. Like, there's no team in it, but it's the complete opposite here. Everyone wants to win. That's what matters most to these guys. So being able to, kind of bring what I learned at school and, apply it here, and, we've been able to, be successful so far.
One of the guys who we have really had a lot of fun watching over the last couple of seasons as he has burst onto the national scene, the prospect scene, is Tampa Bay Rays prospect Blake Snell, the number 2 prospect in the entirety of the organization, who after a very, very long and I would imagine very exciting and at times probably very exhausting campaign done for the 2015 season with a whole lot of accolades who have already come your way and are still coming your way. Blake, congratulations on a great year, man, and being done with it, being close to it. How does it feel kind of in the immediate reaction to this season?
It feels good to just kind of look back on the year that I had and what I was able to accomplish. And, I'm really, really happy about it. But also at the same time, there's still the big leagues, the ultimate goal and where I want to be. So it's kind of cool to have an off season going. I'm going to probably be going into big league spring training and being able to hopefully try to compete for the job. So I'm really excited about that. And, I got my off season started off this week, so I'm ready to get after it and chase the dream.
Well, and I mean, especially with the way that last season kind of put you on the map and to be able to follow it up with such a good year this year. Just kind of take us through what this whole ride has been like to go from, 2 years ago, you're a 20-year-old kid in the Class A Midwest League. There's a whole lot of kids who are like you, and then all of a sudden you separate yourself with an outstanding 2014. And this year, all the awards, Baseball America's Minor League Player of the Year, the Rays with just all kinds of plaudits and praise for you. And to look back at where you were a couple of seasons ago and now know that you're going to go into February and go into March and be able to finally make that push toward winning a big league rotation spot, what does that feel like now?
It's kind of weird because it hasn't set in that I have a shot to be a big leaguer yet. It hasn't really hit me, but it's just kind of after the year I had to really just sit down and think about what I accomplished and what I have to look forward to in this next year coming up. I was really just proud of everything that I did and how serious I really did take it and how it paid off for really pushing myself every day. So that was really cool to just see that I put in a lot of work and a lot of effort, and to be able to do all that was just a really cool experience for me to have, because in 2013 I had a really tough year. And for me to overcome that the last 2 seasons is something that I've been really proud about. Just maturing, growing up, and really taking it serious is something that I felt I've been really proud of myself, is that I really have grown up. And going into spring training, I really feel that I'm going to compete at the best of my ability, and I'm getting that much better as the days and the years go on. So I'm really excited about that.
It's not often that we get to bring guys onto the show who are some of the real titan names in all of minor league baseball, but we get to do that today on the 35th edition of the Show Before the Show. As the all-time minor league home run king, Mike Hessman, joins us from South Carolina. It was this summer you broke the all-time minor league home run record with number 433.
Mike, we talked at one point this season, I think it was when you tied the record. You would say at the end of the career, when you were done, you would take some time and look back on everything, and you weren't going to allow that to happen until you would finally announce that you were retiring. And now with that announcement, have you taken any time to look back at your career? Look at all the homers, all the numbers. I know you say you don't do it for that, but have you taken that time to look back at what you've accomplished in your career?
No, not yet. I haven't had I don't know, it was something that I've never really paid a lot of focus or attention to. I just wanted to go out there and enjoy playing the game and play it the right way. But with this past year, with the record and things like that, I've come across a lot of cool stuff, and some people have given me a lot of cool things. And I got a binder full of some stuff to go through and check out. And I saw some old scorecards that got flashed through Twitter and things like that with some old teammates. So it definitely brought back a bunch of old memories. And I'll definitely, when I get some time, I'll definitely sit back and kind of hash it all over again.
I'm Ben Hill, live and on location for the Show Before the Show podcast on MILB.com. And I'm joined by Trevor Gooby, the Senior Director of Florida Operations for the Pittsburgh Pirates. There's a lot of aspects of your job we could talk about, I'm sure. But I wanted to talk about one anecdote that I'm sure you've told dozens, if not hundreds of times before. Yep. And this was 3 years ago. You were doing your job, a lot of people at the ballpark, hustling around, and something unexpected happened. And what was that?
Well, it's pretty crazy. We were doing basically an open house for our season ticket holders to get ready for spring training, and a woman went into labor, and within 10 minutes she actually had the baby here at the ballpark, and I was the catcher, if you will, of that baby.
So, at what point were you there when she started? Did you get a call over the walkie-talkie? There's a woman going into labor. How did you come on the scene in this situation?
Yeah, so my job is I'm kind of all around the stadium, so I was walking around the stadium, greeting people, saying hello, checking on some things that were working or what wasn't working, and an usher came over to us and said, "Hey, I'm going. There's a woman here that's going to have a baby." And I was so busy that I thought he was talking about his daughter, not someone actually in the stadium. So I said, "Oh, congratulations." He goes, "No, not my daughter. I'm talking about someone actually here at the stadium." So I walked over, and this woman was definitely having labor pains, and I have 2 kids of my own, so I've seen that it's not a quick process. So I said, okay, we'll have some time. So we called the EMS, we called the ambulance. I actually wheeled her out to the front of the stadium to wait for the ambulance, as our stadium's relatively close to downtown Bradenton. And within that 5 minutes, as I was actually wheeling her out in a wheelchair, she said, "No, this baby's happening now." So it was me and her and the baby, and she looked at me and said she had a push, and literally like one push and the baby was out. And then it kind of went to panic mode and what we were going to do next. But we had the baby, the ambulance was there in the next few minutes, and thank goodness everything worked out fine.
And you were the first person to hold this child
upon
his emergence into the
I was right there. It was pretty crazy, and like you said, it's a story that I don't think many people are able to experience. And then I probably have told it 1,000 times, and then it became kind of this like epic story. And my friends all across the country heard about it because it was on ESPN, it was on Sports Illustrated. I got my 15 minutes of fame through that.
We picked a very, very good episode for our latest guest to join the Show Before the Show podcast for Minor League Baseball, because in the brand new Top 100 MLB.com prospect rankings for the 2016 season, Max Kepler is ranked number 44 overall, and the Twins prospect joins the 44th episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. One of the really cool things about prospects that we get to talk to is learning about guys' backgrounds, and Max's background is different from basically anybody we've ever had on the show before. Max was born in Berlin. Max, give us your full name. What is your full legal name that's on a birth certificate or a document?
Maximilian Anthony Kepler Rojitsky.
Okay,
Wow.
So not Tom Smith. But this is one of the coolest stories among not just top prospects, but really any prospect in all of baseball. Max was born in Berlin in 1993, grew up there as the son of, and this is very cool, and when I first read it, it was on Wikipedia, and I was like, well, I wonder if that's actually true, and then I found it through an MLB story. But your parents are both professional ballet dancers?
Yes, my dad's still teaching and my mom's retired.
That's awesome. So, your parents get you into that and they get you into sports and stuff as a kid. What was it about baseball that drew you? Your mom is American-born. Your father is of Polish descent. Is that right?
Yeah.
So what was it about baseball then that spoke to you as a kid and really made you want to get into it?
Well, my mom being from Texas, she had me introduced to a little league that was that came together with the school I went to, John F. Kennedy School in Berlin. And at the time it was between, I had to make decisions between soccer, baseball, tennis, track, and I think swimming. And it came down to then soccer and baseball. And my dad was all for soccer, being from Poland and Europe where, soccer rules. And my mom was pushing me towards baseball, And then, I don't know, I just, there's something that I really, every day in and out, I wanted to be on the baseball field instead of the soccer field, and people frowned upon that in Europe. And but for some reason that pushed me more. I just wanted to, be different and play a different game than everybody else in that country. And I wanted to go abroad and see what the U.S. had to offer in baseball. And luckily that all worked out. And I'm thankful for the path it's given me so far.
Show Before the Show podcast continues along from MILB.com. We are headed to the Grapefruit League in the Houston Astros spring training facility, which is a place where we actually have not gotten to go a whole lot so far this spring. But Rachel Balkovec joins us.
You put your name differently on the resume. Just put Ray instead of Rachel, just to kind of give it, a dual meaning to try to get across as not somebody else, but just a different name that would come across. But what else did you have to kind of do to get over that hump? To get people on people's desks, get your foot in.
You know what is, I always say, for me, obviously I had to do a couple of things like that. I didn't have to do that, and I also felt bad right after I did it, but I was, to be honest with you, a little desperate probably. But,
it happens to all of us.
I always say, I knew as a woman I had to be undeniable. I wanted them to look at my resume and say, not just say, well, yeah, she has a good resume, but say, we literally cannot go without hiring that woman. We need her. And so what I did was I interned at Arizona State 2 separate times for free. I was a graduate assistant at LSU for $1,000 a month. I worked at Athletes Performance for free. I did an internship with the Fall League. I was making $30 a day. I worked in the Dominican Republic for $50 a day. So I did the things that other people weren't willing to do. And for me, that was a huge part of if you're going to break a barrier, you're going to, or if you're going to expect someone to, be a pioneer for you and give you an opportunity when other people won't, then in my mind, you have to beat out the other competition by and far. You have to be head and shoulders above everybody else. And so what did I do to, be given the opportunity? I wanted to be the best. I'm always going to do that. I'm never going to leave it to chance that somebody could say, well, it's okay. Her resume is okay. No, my resume is going to be the best resume. I didn't learn Spanish for fun. I learned Spanish to get better at my job. So I think that's something that can't be underestimated is, yes, I did things okay, I changed my name, but that didn't really get me in the door. In fact, it didn't even work that well. So
Right.
Kind of backfired a little bit. So the thing that got me in the door, I think, is just me being good at what I do and also being better at others than, at what we do. And the way to do that was I was going to take the jobs that nobody else wanted to take. I was going to work for free as long as it took, and that's what I did.
And we are headed to the Oakland Athletics organization where we find the 4th-ranked prospect in the A's system, Matt Chapman.
Anybody who's read a scouting report on you, I think the highest grades you get are normally for your defensive work at third. The A's even tried you out a little bit at shortstop last year. To you, how do you think you've kind of grown as a defensive third baseman? And, how do you kind of define what is a good defensive third baseman or what you're trying to work towards becoming?
I think that the defensive part of my game kind of obviously comes a little bit more natural. Defense is a little bit more of a natural position, just kind of, growing up as a kid and just playing baseball, or whether in high school, college, all that, you do so much work. And I think that luckily I was blessed to get some good hands, but just all the work that I put in, I think, in college is really where I elevated my defensive game and learned how to some good things. And I give a lot of credit to Ron Washington too. Last year made a few adjustments with me, but defensively at third base, the biggest thing is just positioning, because the ball comes at you so fast that what gives you the most range would be your positioning and just kind of anticipating. It's such a quick reaction. Obviously, somebody with better reactions will have a better opportunity at third base, but if you can anticipate what pitch is going to be thrown, or get told what pitch is going to be thrown from your shortstop, or put yourself in a good position, you're ultimately that's when it's going to give you the most success at third base. It's such a unique position in that way.
For you being at a stage where this is, kind of finishing school at the AAA level, what does it say about where you are in your minor league career? And when you look at guys like that, does that give you any different perspective on where you are and just how quickly it can come? Or do you even think about that at this stage?
Hard not to think about things like that sometimes. But for me personally, when the time comes, I will be ready, and when the time comes, I think it'll be the right time for me. All that I can really control is going out there every day and taking care of my business and just trying to get better, because I think that there's some things that I still need to work on and get better, and I'm just going to try and be the best player that I can possibly be so that when the time comes, I can have the most success I can.
Next up, 2 conversations from spring training 2018 when Josh Jackson caught up with Eloy Jimenez of the Chicago White Sox, and I talked with Fernando Tatis Jr. of the San Diego Padres.
I've heard that you've learned English very quickly, and that you've done a lot of very good work in learning English in a short amount of time. How much is that something that you've been focused on as much as you've been focused on all the parts of baseball?
Like, first of all, it's because, like, I don't know, I feel like bad with myself. Like, I can't even talk with my coaches about anything, and I'm say I need to learn something, like, for communicate with my coaches and say, okay, let's put it work, and focus in baseball too, but at the same time I need to focus in my English.
Has it been easy or hard for you?
It was kind of easy, hard, and funny.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Having some fun with it.
Yeah, like funny and little bit of how do you say it? Like, I don't know. It was funny, but at the same time it was awkward. A little bit. Yeah, but I'm feeling pretty good with myself.
I know that you've talked before about being a leader and wanting to be a leader, and I know the White Sox see you as somebody who can come up in the system and be a leader on all the different teams that you play on. How much of your desire to learn English has been kind of a part of that, like being able to communicate with everybody and talk to everybody?
Yeah, that is one of my thoughts in my mind. If I want to be a leader, I need to be completely like bilingual, and I need to be like leader outside the field and on the field. Like, I try to be like one of the guys, like you saw him watching and you say, oh, this may be gonna be one leader one day. That's why I play the game like that and try to learn English and like try to do everything outside right.
We talked last year after that one crazy day, the inside the park home run and all that stuff in Fort Wayne, and it just seemed like you were having so much fun last season with that team, and getting a chance to play in full season ball and be a guy who was relied on as, you know, a key part of the order and a leadership role. What about that? Why are you successful in that role? Being somebody who's vocal, being somebody who can be kind of the energy for a team. What about your personality makes you that way?
I don't think of stuff so much. Baseball is gonna be a hard game. It's gonna be tough on you. So I'm just trying to have fun every day. You know, no matter what, I'm having fun and just keep playing the game. And like this game, you're not gonna play it for your entire life. So be blessed to be in the field every day and just have fun.
What's the biggest thing you worked on over the off season for this year?
You know, I'm a player. I gotta do everything. So I would say everything: hitting, catching ground balls, running, everything.
When you made that jump at the end of last season, you get a couple of weeks in, you go right over to Lake Elsinore. What was it like getting to Double-A and getting kind of thrown into the fire there?
I like it. You know, they were pushing me. They were like training me, you know, getting me to that level. And I like it. You know, I got there and I tried to do my best and the stuff worked.
Number 44 overall prospect, Dylan Cease, joining us. What has this season been like from beginning to end for you? You know, looking back to where you were as a pitcher back in, you know, February, March when you're showing up to spring training, to where you are now after 124 regular season innings.
Yeah, I don't think I could ask for a better season, to be honest, in terms of how I developed. You know, I came into the season not really feeling that confident with my off speed, and I feel like I really kind of changed the shape on 2 of my off speed pitches and got a feel for everything. So it was really solid, and you know, even though I'm at 124 innings, my body and arms still feel good. So yeah, I was happy with it.
Going into this offseason, knowing that you're probably going to be starting next year either Double-A or Triple-A Charlotte, how does that change things for you, knowing that a potential debut could be coming for you in 2019? What does that do for your outlook going into this offseason?
Yeah, I think that's just going to help me prepare and focus even better. Put as much into it as I can. I'm not going to necessarily worry about anything like that, but it's going to keep me eating good and lifting and getting my body ready. That's for sure.
Very grateful this week to be joined by number 15 overall prospect, Padres left-hander Mackenzie Gore, the day before minor league opening night. How do you kind of get away from the spotlight in that way and return to who you were back when you were in high school in North Carolina?
I mean, it's all good. Like you appreciate it, what people say about you, and you just have to kind of ignore the noise and know what you need to do. Like, and if you don't just get caught up in it and you ignore it and just work on your craft, and you'll be okay. And it's good for me to do it now. So when I'm down the road, I'll know how to handle it.
Chris Paddock obviously making his major league debut, doing really quite well in that. The Padres pushing up Fernando Tatis Jr. They seem to be all in right now in letting the young guys play. How much does that trickle down to you guys, at the lower levels, or even in spring training, at minor league camp, when you're seeing guys like Paddock, guys like Tatis, Mejia, Urias at one point, all getting looks? I mean, how much do you guys talk about that around the locker room?
It's good. Gets you excited. But then again, we just got to get out of A-ball first. So, but it means that you're not as far away as you think. And these guys played in A-ball not that long ago.
So does it make it easier to you envision that, or do you only focus on what your next start is in Lake Elsinore?
Yeah. So when you start looking ahead, that's when you get in trouble. I just kind of one day at a time. And if you take it one day at a time, I'll get better every day, and it'll be here sooner than later.
The Texas Rangers organization is where we find this week's guest for the show before the show from MILB.com, and there is right-handed pitcher Tim Dillard, who is just setting a slew of records for the Nashville Sounds at the AAA level. And you look back, this is a career that dates back, drafted in 03, or in 02 rather, and debuted in 03. Yep. You've made almost 500 career appearances in the minor leagues, almost 75 in the major leagues. And at this stage, I mean, when you look back at the fact that you've been playing professional baseball for over a decade and a half now, you're a 34th round pick. Like, there are not a whole lot of guys from the 34th round that make it 5 years, much less 15 years. How does that, if you could go back and talk to 19, 20-year-old Tim, do you think that there was any way that you would have ever believed that this would have turned into what it's turned into for you?
Definitely not. Because everybody has that goal. If you're getting into pro ball, I mean, everyone has the same goal. They want 10 years in the show. And so you build up this idea that if you don't get that, then you're a failure. But that's just simply not the case. I mean, if I told my wife that, hey, sorry, but the last 15 years of our lives has been a total waste, I'm not going to do that, because, the experiences I've had and the people I've met and the places I've gone, I mean, it's hard to put a price on that. It's hard to put into words, really, because it is a lifestyle and you're doing it together. And so, I mean, everyone's path is different. Everyone's is unique. And mine just happens to be, over 15 years in the minor leagues. So I don't know. I would change some things for sure. But if I could go back and talk to myself, I would just say, hey, man, enjoy the ride, because I felt like I was always trying to get somewhere and at the expense of the moment. So now that I've felt like I thought I'd be retiring in the last, every year for the last 7 years, it gets sweeter. I don't know when I'm going to play again, so every time I'm out there, it's as sweet as it can be.
To an International League All-Star we head for segment number 2 this week on the show before the show. Minnesota Twins prospect Brent Rooker, the 7th-ranked prospect in that organization.
Being one stop away, what was your welcome to AAA moment? What was the moment where you felt like, oh, this really is this close to the major leagues?
That's a good question. You kind of get here, and within the first 2 weeks, you realize how many moves are made back and forth, specifically with bullpen arms and with pitchers. That's something you don't see at the lower levels, even at AA. You don't really see the shuffling back and forth, the taking advantage of guys who have options and kind of keeping your bullpen fresh. with that ability and the roster depth. So once you're here and the first couple moves get made within the first 2 or 3 weeks of being here, you kind of realize that there's a ton of depth in the 40-man roster, and the guys are honestly just one call away. That's when it kind of sinks in.
Brent, the 2019 season, being named an All-Star at the International League side, to be an All-Star and get that recognition, what does that mean to you this year with the way, especially through April and May with the injury and all that stuff, and now the way you've taken off in June to get this recognition? When you got that news, what was your reaction?
I was super excited, obviously. To be a part of that game, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's a huge honor. I think it was kind of reassuring for me to know that the work I've been putting in and the adjustments I've made are paying off. Obviously, with how the year started slow, and then I was able to come on a little bit later. So, that was the biggest thing for me. It was just kind of like a reassurance, like I'm on the right path. My process is working to just kind of continue what I'm doing right now and continue looking to get better, and good things will come.
The 4th-ranked prospect in the Detroit Tiger system joins us on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show, the final one before the end of 2019. Tarik Skubal, who jumped into the Tiger system in 2018 in the 9th round out of Seattle University and rocketed through his first full professional season this year with Class A Advanced Lakeland and AA Erie. Go wire-to-wire, 24 starts, and the numbers from those 24 starts with Lakeland and Erie, a 6-8 record, a 2.42 ERA, 179 strikeouts, and 122 and 2/3 innings. When you look back on this year, what does it feel like to have that first full season under your belt and have it be a season like this?
It's awesome, just from a confidence standpoint too, being confident out there and being consistent every game and start to start, trying to be as consistent as you can. And then obviously once you see success, the confidence starts to grow. So it was huge for me to start my career like that.
Whether it was that year or this year, especially because you really hit the ground running, only giving up 2 earned runs in your first 3 starts. But at what point did you feel like, okay, this is really going to work for me? I'm not just an average 9th rounder. I'm going to be somebody who can climb up this Tiger system and really find that consistent level of success that you've found so far in your career.
I'm just very confident in my ability and confident in how I carry myself, and I know what I bring to the plate. I know when I toe the rubber, I kind of just really believe in myself, and I trust what I'm trying to do, and I try and just pitch to my strength. So I don't really necessarily think, where I'm going to start or where I want to climb, but it's more of just being confident in myself and pitching to my strength and just kind of controlling how much effort I put into things, and that's what my focus is on.
To the Cincinnati Reds organization we had on this week's episode of the Minor League Baseball podcast, and there we find the 3rd-ranked prospect in that system, catcher Tyler Stevenson, who is set to head into the 2020 campaign, coming off a breakout year in 2019, and instead now we're all sitting around doing nothing and talking about baseball. But there are so many kind of limited options right now of what guys are able to do, and we've had stories up on the site of prospects who have kind of built their own mounds or trying to find facilities that they can use and do all that kind of stuff. What have you been doing to stay, somewhat ready? Obviously, when we get to baseball season, there will be a ramp-up period where you guys will get kind of an abbreviated version of spring training, presumably. But right now, how do you try to keep in as much game-ready form as you can?
Well, I was kind of fortunate enough that the place I work out at, obviously everything in Atlanta is pretty much shut down. But he actually let us take home some equipment. So for the most part, I've got everything I need for workouts, and I just have everything set up in my basement and just go at it in there. And it's perfect. It's everything I need. I think the biggest change and kind of the hardest part is just hitting and everything like that, because places I've hit at in the off season, they're all shut down. And like my high school, I would go up there and use the indoor facilities. But they're technically shut down, and there's been cops rolling around and like kicking people out if you're there. So really, I was kind of fortunate enough that my neighbor, I think he's in 8th grade. He's got one of those like soft toss nets.
Oh, nice.
So I've got a tee at home and just pretty much going in there, put it in my backyard and just hit. And like when I first came home, I thought about like building a cage in my backyard, just because literally everything's shut down, as well as pretty much the whole country. And So I went and tried to get a quote and see how much that cost. And that was going to cost way too much. So I was just like, yeah, I'll make it work. I mean, I feel good. Obviously, it's kind of a struggle for everybody right now, but it's fun to, like, obviously see everybody post about it and just what creative ways that everybody's kind of doing stuff. And I mean, you see people doing workouts with, like, just big bags of sand. And I mean, it's kind of fun to, like, change it up just because we're so used to the normal, just going into a weight room and just cranking out weights and doing all this stuff. So it's cool to see everybody being creative about it.
We've been asking everybody this, especially with there being no minor league baseball now. Given your 5+ years now in minor league baseball, what is your favorite minor league baseball memory?
Ooh, probably hitting a walk-off homer in Daytona. That, I mean, just something every kid when they're younger dreams about hitting a walk-off homer, like bases loaded, bottom of the ninth, World Series Game 7. I mean, every baseball kid has had that going through their mind at some point in the front yard or whatever. Obviously, it wasn't a grand slam. It was a solo home run, but still, that was fun. I mean, I remember hitting it and then thinking, I was like, that might go. And then it was just like, I don't know, once I think officially saw it was over, I just completely blacked out, and I don't know what happened after that in terms of once I hit home plate and a bucket of water gets dumped on me, and it was awesome.
Go to the Seattle Mariners organization this week, and the number 2 prospect in that system, and a dude who is in Major League Baseball, is not only top 100 prospects, but top 20. He is number 18 overall, and that is outfield prospect Julio Rodriguez, who joins the show. Mariners fans are so starved for a winner, and the way that you guys in that organization have been stockpiling talent and prospects, and how many are getting close now toward the Major League level, what does it mean to you to know that Mariners fans are so eagerly watching your development and seeing how you guys might well be that next step that brings a winning type of baseball back to Seattle?
It is, to be honest, it's really cool because we know that they have been through a lot of years without winning and all that. And now that they get excited because of us, it's like, give us like more support, you know, because we play for them, we play for the city. We're gonna play for the city. We're gonna win for the city. And know that the fans that they love us, they support us. It just feels amazing. Like, they are really positive about our group, and I love to see that. Every time I see some comments like on my post or somewhere else, it just like makes me really happy. It makes me more like hungry to bring that championship to the city. And we all feel like that. I'm telling you, we all feel like that. And it's not just me, it's not just Jared, it's just everybody in the organization feels that way.
Julio, one thing that a lot of people in the Mariners organization rave about with you is your leadership skills. And I think, you know, to be 18 and see a guy in the clubhouse who's just gotten traded and to have the presence of mind to think, oh, he probably feels awkward, I should go introduce myself. Not a lot of 18-year-olds would think that way. Is the leadership side of things, is that something that's always been kind of part of your mentality even when you were a kid or you were growing up playing on teams? Or has that come along as you've started to progress in your professional career?
I feel like that comes since I was a kid because all the time, like, I used to lead a team, like, to give advice to my friends. I feel like that have been along with me, like, a long time ago, since I was a kid. Because every time, even whenever I moved to Santiago, to the academy I signed, it just felt like I was leading them all. Like, they were, like, listening to me. Like, they were always, like, willing to talk to me to get better, to finding any advice. I feel like that's how it has been with me.
We're thrilled this week to be joined on the Show Before the Show podcast, Minor League Baseball's official podcast, with a guy who has not yet played minor league baseball, but will hopefully sometime next year. Is number 1 overall pick from this year, Tigers prospect Spencer Torkelson.
From the standpoint of getting to be around the big league guys, when you are somebody who obviously comes in and they know a lot about you already, What is, the first time you stepped to take some swings at Comerica Park, and you're in front of sort of the whole organization, are there extra nerves in that moment for you? I mean, you've been in such big spots already just over the last few years in your baseball life, playing at Arizona State and for Team USA and all that kind of stuff. But when you're in a moment like that, in such a strange year, what did that feel like? Was it a little extra nervy?
No doubt there's nerves, because you're kind of you're not sure, because everyone's told you how good you are, and then you don't truly believe it, because you're going up these major league guys that you always put on a pedestal your whole life, and they're like, no, that's a big leaguer, and how do I hit batting practice next to a big leaguer? I kind of had to calm down and trust my ability, and just said, just go out there and take a couple good swings, because obviously the draftee number one is going to be enough. So I had to tell myself to not try to do too much, because sometimes when you're kind of overwhelmed in a situation like that, you'll press, and that's the last thing you want to do.
Yeah, so do you have any kind of tips for slowing down a moment like that? I mean, part of you, I would imagine, would want to appreciate being in a major league stadium and getting the chance to show, why you were the number one overall pick, but you still have to get in your work and still try to improve as a hitter. What kind of tips or routines do you go through to kind of slow down a moment like that?
I think, you do want to embrace what's going on around you. You're hitting batting practice at Comerica Park, which is, a dream come true in its own. But for me, I like to pride myself on the work ethic and being prepared. And so if you're prepared, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. So I felt ready for that batting practice, and I just told myself, how many times you've hit batting practice. This is just another day hitting. Just the field's a lot nicer.
It's time for a very special segment of the Show Before the Show podcast. I'm Ben Hill with Sam Dykstra and Tyler Mon, and we are joined by two very special guests, two general managers of the International League. We have Dan Mason, general manager for the Rochester Red Wings, and Jason Smorrell, general manager for the Syracuse Mets. Dan Mason representing the Rochester Plates and Jason representing the Syracuse Salt Potatoes. Their duel of the dishes, the battle for the Golden Fork, kicks off today. There's a lot of contentious dialogue taking place right now. Garbage plates and salt potatoes, it could have been we're all in this together. We get along, we complement each other, but clearly you two teams have taken the opposite approach and going head to head, literally so, starting tonight with the duel of the dishes. How did this become a rivalry with a name and a trophy, the Golden Fork? And what does this rivalry entail now that it's gone underway? What's a little of the history of that? Who should I even ask for?
I'll let Dan start that. I'll go see if I can find the Golden Fork. I'll let Dan say wonderful things about me while I'm off the podcast.
All right, as Jason looks for the trophy, which Syracuse already won, Dan can tell us about the history of the rivalry.
Well, when we both had our food identities, again, we feel ours is, well, we know ours is way better because, again, it's a meal. It's not simply an add-on or an appetizer. It's it's something to enjoy for a long time. There it is, the largest trophy in professional sport, the 8-foot-tall Golden Fork. Maybe the most coveted and largest trophies in professional sports.
Still has the dirt on it where Joel Skinner stabbed it into our field when they won the Golden Fork.
Jason's literally holding up the Golden Fork right now, and it is massive. It is 8 feet tall?
8 feet tall, and it's like I said, the largest trophy in professional sports. Joel Skinner, we did capture the fork a few years ago, and he and our pitching coach, Stu Clyburn, proceeded as Jason begrudgingly turned over the Golden Fork. Joel Skinner stabbed it right into the heart of the infield at historic MBT Ballpark. Right there. And then I think walked off the field.
Ever since that day, that faithful day that Joel Skinner took the 8-foot fork and plunged it into the skin of historic MBT Bank Stadium, that we would never falter again. And we've never lost a game since that day because the salt potatoes. Look at him. Grrr, he's angry. And he's ready. He's muscular and he's ready, and we're going to dominate. And we don't care about championships. We don't care about player development. We care about one thing, the golden fork. That's it.
And with us are two special guests, icons in minor league baseball and sports, although you might not know their names, Dominic and Brennan Latkovsky. They are the founders of Superstars and the Skillville Entertainment Group. Superstars, inflatable mascots, sketch comedy routines, skits, jokes, props, Harry Canary, Ken Giraffe Jr., Clammy Sosa, all sorts of ballpark characters, and many more.
Bird-Zerk.
And let's not forget Bird-Zerk.
There you go. Yeah, Bird-Zerk. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Dom.
Yes.
Someone just said Bird-Zerk. We could go on and on about all that. Where to begin? Well, let's start at the beginning. This is not a unique career to be touring sports entertainers and to create your own act and a lot of wacky visuals and travel the country performing for sports fans and a lot of minor league baseball work through the years. So let's start at the beginning. How did you get on the path to such an anomalous career? And then, you built it up to something very successful.
It all began in 1990 when the Louisville Redbirds were dumb enough to hire me to become Billy Bird, the mascot, their mascot. The guy who had been doing it named Billy Johnson, who actually ended up going on to work for a couple of minor league teams afterwards, including Chattanooga and Kinston. And then he ran out to Las Vegas and ran the hockey team out there. He just got tired of being the mascot and doing the PR and media stuff as well. So they were looking for a new Billy Bird. They hired me when I was in college, and it was something I had always wanted to do. I had been doing mascot stuff in high school and for local radio stations. And when I was a kid, I loved going out and watching the Philly Fanatic and the Chicken and seeing Max Patkin and Morgana, the Kissing Bandit. And even knew when I was 12 years old that would be a fun job to have. So I started that ball rolling way back then, and I got hired to be Billy Bird. And then people said, "Hey, you're doing a pretty decent job, but you're just as funny as the Chicken." And he was making $8,500 a game, and I was making $35 a game. And I thought, well, if I'm as funny as him, then I got to figure something out here. So we ended up figuring a few things out and created Bird-Zerk and then Superstars, and that's where it all began way back then.
Yeah, and Brennan, how did you get involved in the fold, making this a family business?
Dominic's parents are also my parents, so we've known each other almost our whole lives. And we started doing routines while he was Billy Bird. Those first couple of years, I was down in school in Georgia in Macon, and I would come back for the summer, and we started doing routines on the field with our other brother Lex and our buddy Mike Hamburg, and the four of us would go out there and do different routines, and we would dress up like George Bush and Barbara Bush. And back then, Mike Hamburg and I had a Blues Brothers act, a full band. So we started incorporating Blues Brothers into our Billy Bird routines, and I would dress up as Morgana the Kissing Bandit, and I dressed up as Vanilla Ice and did a post-game quote-unquote concert, and we just did all kinds of goofy stuff. We didn't luckily the people that were in charge of us gave us a lot of free reign, so we had a lot of fun. We were entertaining, but we weren't vulgar or stupid or whatever. It was just kind of corny, and we pushed the envelope a little bit here and there, and Dominic was doing a great job as Billy Bird for them. So the first 2 years we traveled as Billy Bird and Company, and the company part was all these other tidbits that we would do. Mike and I would dress up as, we would appear like we were 80-year-old nuns with nun habits on, and we'd walk out onto the field and with walkers or whatever, and we'd throw first pitches and then break into some kind of a hip hop dance routine with Bird-Zerk or Billy Bird. And so we did all kinds of corny stuff. And like Dominic said, people said we were funny. People said we were good. And shortly thereafter, 92, the winter of '92, the winter meetings came to Louisville, and we got a booth. We made a video. We put some pamphlets together. We had done a show or two in Nashville for Larry Schmittou with the Nashville Sounds in the old stadium there, and just put together kind of a little reference pamphlet back then. And we hoped we were going to get 6 or 8 gigs to pay for the investment, and we ended up with 48 gigs the first year. So we were off and running. We went down to Mexico. I was lucky enough to learn a little bit of something in high school and college. I spoke Spanish, so I spoke to the Mexican baseball teams that came by the winter meetings that winter in '92, and we went to Mexico shortly thereafter, and they loved it, and it's been a fantastic journey for us for 30 years now.
Well, we are thrilled on this week's episode of the show before the show. 4th-ranked prospect in the Kansas City Royals organization, Vinny Pasquantino, who joins us. And you are in the middle of really what we could say is your second straight or third straight breakout season. So let's talk about 2022 to start things. You kick things off at Omaha. You're already almost 50 games in, but you got a slash line of 298, 392, 667, 15 homers so far. It's AAA is supposed to be hard, Vinny. What's the deal here?
Well, I've been fortunate to have people on base for me. That's the easiest way to drive in runs, right? Is the guys in front of me have been doing a really nice job of getting on base. I can always appreciate that. It's just one of those things. I'm just trying to hit. That's about it. I have the same approach as I pretty much had since I was 10. I mean, obviously there's some more advanced things in there now, but I really just want to have good at bats, and I'm not worried about. I mean, obviously you're a little bit worried about the numbers, but when I'm at the plate, I don't care about my numbers. I'm just trying to have good at bats and make the pitcher work to get me out.
When you say you've had the same approach for so long in your baseball life, take us through what that is. What is the Vinny Pasquantino approach, and how have you had to adapt, especially as you've climbed, you get to Northwest Arkansas and have so much success there last year, Omaha this year? How have you adapted to the level changes?
Well, I mean, my approach is quite simple. When you look at it from kind of an outsider's perspective, is I want to make the pitcher sweat a little bit when he faces me. That's about it. If I consider myself to have a good at bat, then even if it's not by industry standards, then I'm good with it. That's my goal. I have my own formula for what makes a good at bat, and it's not the same every time, right? Like if I see 10 pitches in at bat, it's normally for the most part a pretty good at bat. But if I hit 100 on the first pitch and I line out or a flat or something, depending on how I feel about it, that's good at bat too. So I really don't look at, I hit a double there, or I hit a homer, or I hit a single, whatever it might be. I'm really looking at the approach and how I approach that at bat. And if I feel like I did a nice job, then I'm happy with it.
Today on the Show Before the Show podcast, we are pleased to welcome, I think for the first time in podcast history, not just a single guest, but a family. We are talking to an entire family on the podcast. Emma Tiedemann, the director of broadcasting for the Portland Sea Dogs. Her husband, Jesse Scaglione, director of ticketing, operations, sales, tickets. And their newborn daughter, Lucy Ruth. She is happy to be on the podcast. Her first podcast as well, I hope. I mean, she might have been on before.
Her first. We saved the exclusive for you guys.
Excellent.
Is this one of the baby book? I just want to. Is this 100%. One of the entries now in like a modern day baby book is like first podcast interview, and you're like March 20th.
It was actually paid for it, so it's good. We're checking a box.
Well, truly, a podcasting first for many right now, and we obviously want to get into the specifics of being a husband and wife team who works in minor league baseball, who are juggling now, having a newborn baby to deal with on top of the craziness of a minor league baseball season as it is already.
Emma, you have been a trailblazing broadcaster already in many facets in your career. You kind of get to break this new barrier where you are going to be a working mother, not just to a child, but to a newborn in the broadcasting community, which is incredible. And across minor league baseball has not happened a whole lot. What does that feel like? I mean, approaching a season is stressful in every way. Approaching it with a newborn has got to be a completely different world. How do you wrap your mind around kind of where you are a couple of weeks out from the start of the season?
I would say intimidating, overwhelming, all of the emotions that in normal, after you just had a baby, the hormones bring you, which is super fun. But I think, we knew it was coming, so we've kind of, talked a lot about our plan and our schedule. But it's, kind of tough thinking about when I do come back of, well, we do have our longer work week, so that could be, anywhere from 50 to 60 to 70 hours. And then on top of that, I'll be gone for a week at a time with the team. So missing quite a bit of her life really early on. So I think, we've talked about it of, I'm taking every second of my maternity leave, so I can really soak up every moment I can with her. And then, having the ability for Jesse to come on the road for a few series once I'm back and he goes on his paternity leave with Lucy, and just kind of keeping her around. So it's tough to still think about the fact that I do have to leave her eventually, because I've loved, seeing her grow these last couple of weeks. But, it's something that I think that in a few years, when she's at most of the Eastern League ballparks, if not a lot of minor league ballparks in general, we'll look back and think, hey, that's a pretty cool way to start your life is going to all these ballparks.
What was it like the first, few months of knowing, hey, we're gonna be welcoming a baby in the next several months? I mean, you're still in season at that point, right? So what was that like to be going through the early stages of a pregnancy while still juggling the rigors of a minor league baseball broadcasting position, which really does not have much, if any, downtime?
It was interesting. In full minor league fashion, I did find out that I was pregnant in Manchester, New Hampshire. I just had a feeling.
As everyone does.
Yeah,
obviously.
just was like, I have some time to kill. Let me run to Walgreens real quick, pick up some pregnancy tests and see how this goes. And so I found out, I called Jesse, and then I had to hang up because I was like, I have to go to the field. So I was kind of walking around in shock. That was 4th of July weekend. And then had to come back here to Portland and just kind of wrap my mind around everything, and then start buying copious amounts of ginger ale because I had really bad morning sickness. And I was still trying to kind of, play everything close to the vest as you do kind of early on in pregnancies and stuff. We weren't ready to tell people. But, slowly I couldn't hide it anymore. Not physically. It was more of, I was having really bad pregnancy brain. And it started to affect my broadcasts. And so my great assistant, Riley, was kind of noticing that I was a little bit different on the air. And so it finally got to a point I had to tell her. She's like, well, I'm glad you're pregnant and not something actually wrong with you, because I was a little worried.
Was there like a moment where she was like, yes, are you okay? Was there like one specific moment?
There was. We're at home, and we had just gotten back from a road trip to Bowie, and Riley was doing play-by-play, I was doing color. I forgot who came in. It was a relief pitcher for Portland, and I was looking at his stats for Bowie. He had a really good outing. And I was looking at it, waiting for Riley to finish the play, and I was going to say, oh, he tossed 2 shutout innings with 3 strikeouts or something. All that came out was Bowie. And Riley, I could see her out of the corner of my eye, just look at me and just be like, are you okay?
That's a very important element of who was pitching. Like
it was, that is the only word that came out of that whole thing. And so it was, I think the next day I was like, I gotta tell her. Like,
I was sitting in my office during the game, like doing a report, and I heard it and had that moment of like, oh no. Did I just hear that right? And one of my associates kind of looked at me and was like, did she just say Bowie?
Did she say Bowie and then stop talking?
Just stop talking.
Last week, on September 12th, the Charlotte Knights hosted LaMichael Mitchell Night at the ballpark. Who is LaMichael Mitchell, and why did the Knights do this? Well, we've got 2 people, the 2 best people to find out more about it. We have Tommy Viola, the Vice President of Communications for the Charlotte Knights, and we have LaMichael Mitchell himself.
Michael, you get a very limited designation as a guy with his own bobblehead now. Tell me about as the Knights got in touch with you, and we'll talk to Tommy about this too. But when did they first approach you about potentially doing Superfan Night, and what was the process like for you, especially when you first heard about it? Like, I would imagine that's just about the coolest thing And then to know that you were getting your own bobblehead, did you have to like, did they do like a 3D scan of you? Did you like get to decide how you were going to be posed or what you were going to be wearing? Like, take us through this whole thing.
Well, it all started when I came out for batting practice back in July with the team, and it was pretty fun. You catch a shag some balls in the outfield and get in the batting cage and take some hacks. And then when it ended, Rob Egan, our general manager, approached me and he surprised me that they were going to do a whole night devoted to me. And when they showed me this bobblehead that they presented to me, I was very pleased and excited. And it kind of resembled me doing what I'm doing, keeping score. And then when the announcement was made, everybody was congratulating me on social media, that was going to happen. And I wasn't expecting this, but it's pretty cool to see the Knights do that honor for me, to this bobblehead, and to have that special night last week, which was absolutely very amazing to see a good bunch of my friends I knew from high school and some I know over the years come out to the ballpark and celebrate me on this honor.
What about the night itself? The bobbleheads are obviously something you get at the gate. What were other things going on during the game, that tied into this theme of honoring LaMichael Mitchell? I mean, I'd like to hear from you, Tommy, and then obviously LaMichael, your thoughts on how the night went as well.
Well, I'll start by saying it was a busy week for LaMichael. He had a full media schedule, TV, radio, a bunch of interviews. Everybody was so excited to tell the story. And once we got to the night was couldn't have gone any better. It was beautiful weather. It was a 7:04 first pitch. Gates opened at 6 o'clock. There were people lined up outside the ballpark waiting for his bobblehead. When the gates opened, they grabbed his bobblehead and they ran to the concourse because LaMichael was on the concourse signing bobbleheads. And I got to say, it was one of the longest lines we've had. People were lined up to meet him, take pictures. And LaMichael had his autograph down. He was really good with it, and he was signing a lot of them and taking a lot of pictures. So that was special. The whole night was special. There was an inning where LaMichael did a dance with Homer on the dugout. That was really cool because LaMichael loves to dance too, right? Yeah. And he also did PA announcing. So he was up in the press box for some PA announcements. He was in the booth. Ben, as you mentioned, loves doing play-by-play. He got to do a little play-by-play, the broadcast, which was amazing. And, just a special night. And as he said, there was a bunch of his friends and family and people that knew him from the ballpark here. So the night couldn't have gone any better.
Yes, and to reiterate what Tommy said, it could have been better because, like I said, I love doing play-by-play, and it was great to do play-by-play on the radio for an inning. And the PA announcement was very cool to do announce the Knights batters when they come up to the plate. And of course, getting to start the fireworks at the end of the night with several members of my family was very special to cap off this great experience. So, all in all, my night was very exciting and epic.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just
speaking into the void?
But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Well, pretty amazing to look back on all of these conversations that we have gotten to have on the Show Before the Show podcast, and it is far from finished. And we're still hitting the road, talking to players, talking to front office members, doing all of the stuff that has made this show a thing that you love or mildly tolerate. And with that, we're going to talk some normalcy for this week's episode. Benjamin Hill is freshly back from Reading, Pennsylvania, where he got a chance to visit the Reading Fightin' Phils at what do they call that park now? First Energy something?
Yeah, First Energy Stadium.
First Energy Stadium.
It was originally Municipal Stadium. I've joked before in the past that, if you looked at a list of ballpark names 50 years ago, you'd have a lot of municipal stadiums on that list. Municipal Stadium. It's First Energy Stadium now, but built in 1950.
and one of the top 10 oldest ballparks in minor league baseball. And then the Reading Fightin' Phils are tied with the Lakeland Flying Tigers for longest affiliation with the parent club in minor league baseball, going back to 1967. So this ballpark's been around since 1950. Professional baseball in Reading goes back to the 19th century. This affiliation with the Phillies is now coming up on my goodness, coming up on 60 years.
60 years, geez.
Yeah, and as a place that I can get to, it's about 2.5 hours roughly from where I live in Brooklyn. So a hefty drive, but I did it up and back in one day. I looked at this as a kind of my own sort of exhibition game, if you will. I've got some road trips coming up very soon. In fact, so soon that I want to say the itinerary for the first one right now. May 1st, Omaha Storm Chasers. May 2nd, Iowa Cubs. May 3rd, Cedar Rapids Colonels. May 4th, Peoria Chiefs. You'd think I could say the names of these teams without stumbling over them. But May 1st, Omaha. May 2nd, Des Moines, Iowa Cubs. May 3rd, Cedar Rapids Colonels. May 4th, Peoria Chiefs. And so that's just like, by the time this episode comes out this Friday, I'll be on the road the following Thursday on that. But I got out to Reading to, just to get out there, have a day on the road before all that. And I woke up early in my apartment and got on the road right away because before going to the ballpark, I drove to nearby Temple, PA, not Temple University, a small town of Temple, where the Fightin' Phils have their Baseball Town Dream League field. And their Dream League is a league for people with disabilities. And not just kids, there's kids there, but it's for all. And so I showed up at that. The Reading Fightin' Phils players were out. There wasn't really a game going on so much as just people having a catch, using the field, running around, free hot dogs. I talked to some of the players, including Laura, the quote-unquote home run queen, who told me she's hit 10 back-to-back home runs at this juncture. So just killing it is Laura. But talking to the players and their joy for the game and being part of this league and their pride in it, and meeting the family members and the front office staffers and the players, and just a really warm community vibe. And I just felt good to be, okay, I'm on the road and I'm in this place where, sounds corny, but where it's all love. It was just nice to be out there. Start with that lunch at the Reading Farmers Market, which reminded me of the Reading Terminal in Philadelphia, but just a big open building with all sorts of vendors. Got some Vietnamese there, but if you're ever in Reading, PA, and you're looking for something to eat on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, go to that farmer's market. A lot of PA Dutch vendors. Speaking of PA Dutch, I talked to one of their players. What's his first name? Braden, I believe. But his last name is Fosnot, which means donut. So if he goes...
They played as the Fosnots, right?
Reading did, yeah.
Yeah, but no. There's a Nate Fosnot who was in the Phillies organization at one point. Braden Fosnot.
Yeah, from Danville, PA. Went to college in Westchester, and that's a PA Dutch background. So here he is playing in Reading, Pennsylvania, PA Dutch territory. And if he gets a call up, he's a pitcher. If he gets a call up to AAA, he will play for the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs, who have had a Fosnot alternate identity. So this guy's name means donut in German and Pennsylvania Dutch, which is German, Deutsch, Dutch. I think that's how it all came
Deutsch,
about.
Yeah.
It came about. So quirky angle with him. Also talked to why can't I remember players' first names? Robert Moore, Dayton Moore's son.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, talked to him as well. Got a full tour of the facility. The Fightin' Phils now. This is a very old ballpark. It's 75 years old, but huge improvements. And Sam, when you and Kelsey and I swung through Reading a couple years ago on the way to Iowa for the Field of Dreams game.
Heck of a thing to say. We went to Reading, PA on our way to Iowa.
We did. But that was the last time, we were all there at that ballpark, and this was in the planning stages then, but now it's a reality. There's a huge structure in the outfield, an events center that can host year-round events and obviously be used for games as well. And the home and away clubhouses are within the event center building, like beneath the top space, which is used for the events. So, this was prompted in some respect by the PDL requirements and facility standards, but they didn't just upgrade it for the players, which they certainly did. But they used this occasion to get some. They got some funding for it and created this whole event center. So now this ballpark's going to be year round in a way that it never was before. So it was really cool to see that new life for a 75-year-old facility. You do lose one of the charms, though, of Reading, which I understand from an operational standpoint had to go. But the clubhouses used to be across the it's a concourse that's behind the field, and the clubhouses used to be on the back end of the concourse. So there was a pathway for the players from their clubhouse to the home dugout that just took them across the concourse, where fans were also milling about. So they'd have to station security to make a pathway for players coming and going to the clubhouse during the game. And that thing of just being in a crowded concourse of people waiting in line for French fries and hot dogs and mascots roaming about, and then the clickety clack of the players' cleats on concrete.
And then Aiden Miller walks past you.
Yeah,
No big deal.
So you don't have that anymore now that the players are, their clubhouse is now part of this larger structure in the outfield. So it's an improvement for them. And we took a tour with Scott Hunziker, the longtime Fightin' Phil's general manager, and seeing the clubhouses, the training facilities. It's everything you'd expect from what those standards are today. Very spacious, very well appointed. And for someone like me who's been in this industry for a while now, thinking back to some of those clubhouses and facilities I saw 15 years ago, it's like, wow, night and day in a lot of cases. And Reading made me particularly happy that they are have gotten themselves up to speed in such a way, and that this classic environment is so well positioned for the future. And then during the game, and I did this in 2010, and I did it in 2025, I served as the crazy hot dog vendor's assistant. Matt Jackson, aka the crazy hot dog vendor, he rides the ostrich named Rodrigo, throws hot dogs into the stands in the middle of the second inning. They have an extra ostrich to ride in a crazy hot dog vendor costume. So I got suited up and I went out on the field with him and threw some hot dogs. Later in the day, I dressed up as some sort of like inflatable German, which is a weird thing to say, but like an Oktoberfest type German. And this
Sam's
inflatable
face
costume. Yeah. I was an inflatable German.
I was an inflatable German. Just
Yeah.
like, what does that mean?
The old
And,
Hindenburg.
Yeah. I had a bag of box of pretzels with a box of bags of pretzels. And as an inflatable German, I gave those out. And just great energy, great weather on a Saturday night. And even the post-game band were great. Drew and the Blue. I saw them open for John Spencer in Lancaster a few years ago, and then there they are in the post-game concert. A singing drummer, and he stands up and plays his drums with the drum heads facing the crowd. So he stands up and kind of just plays like that. And I was like, it's a pretty raucous show. And I was like, this is Reading, Pennsylvania. I love it here. Like a kind of loud, slightly scuzzy rockabilly band playing a post-game show, and that was after the fireworks, and the fireworks were delayed because it wasn't even dark enough to start them. And they had Lil Johnny shooting t-shirts on a slingshot into the crowd while waiting for the fireworks. Lil Johnny is a little person. I mean, he wears a uniform that says 1/2. I don't want to sound disrespectful, but he embraces it. He wears a 1/2 like Eddie Geidel had the 3/8. And see him out there in full uniform shooting on a beautiful night in Reading, shooting t-shirts into the crowd. This is a magical place. And I feel like the Scott Hunziker and his whole staff, including his brother Todd, they just run the place with so much commitment and love. And
Friends of the show, by the way.
Friends of the show, yeah. And they really protect what they have there and keep that core essence going. Within a changing industry, while making all the changes they need to evolve with the industry as it stands now. And really special place, and I was just really happy to be back there. Shake the rust off a little bit. I'll have more from Reading in the coming, next week. Then I'll hit the road again. Omaha, Des Moines, Cedar Rapids, Peoria.
I like what you said about the event center, because I remember, like you said, when we were going out to Iowa, they were talking that up a lot, and they really saw that as a community center, as a place where there could be proms and potentially weddings and stuff like that, where people could gather, like you also said, like when there's not baseball happening. But it also is kind of a reminder of, yeah, the PDLs, the player development licenses, and all these different stipulations that facilities have to be up to a certain code, and teams are. It's calmed down a little bit now, but teams were scrambling for a while to get up to those codes. But those were also opportunities, right? Like if you need a new clubhouse, okay, what else can we get out of this? That is a little bit more front facing for the fans to also enjoy. If we're building a new facility that's only going to be for players, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But like, there's an opportunity here to do something more. Now, I'm not surprised at all that Reading took that opportunity and ran with it. That it has been so successful, but I think it's once again an opportunity for them to be a standard bearer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they will be. And, you know, just a couple of weeks ago, we had Brian DeAngelis with the Winston-Salem Dash on the show talking about hosting a ballpark prom. And that, of course, happened due to a series of convoluted events where they had a prom scheduled on a day where they were on the road. Then they had to host the game because Rome Emperor's Clubhouse flooded. Go back and listen to it. But the whole thing was like, wow, a high school prom took place during a minor league baseball game. Then I'm in Reading and they're like, oh yeah, we got a prom scheduled for May 17th during a home game. So these things that are like, wow, look at this kind of crazy, weird, unprecedented thing. This is minor league baseball. It's like, well, maybe not. Maybe these things will happen now. But when you have an event center where, yeah, you can have business luncheons, where you can get married, where you can have your bar or a bat mitzvah. I called it a bat mitzvah because it's at a ballpark. Concerts, comedy shows. There's just so much you can do. Including hosting a prom in a standalone place, a standalone part of the ballpark while a game's going on. How cool is that for these kids? I think it was May 17th to have like a Reading Fighting Phil's home game, have fireworks, the whole energy of the ballpark, but also have your own space that's just you and your classmates for the prom. Good stuff.
And that ties into kind of the overall theme of this episode, right? Is like looking back on things and what we've learned, and the amount of times that I've turned to you and been like, has this ever happened in the minor leagues before? And you or teams have reached out to you or like constantly to the podcast email address or whatever and be like, hey, we're doing this thing. Is this a first? And
yeah,
you can't definitively ever say, really. You can think like, I believe so.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I say like, oh no, that's happened. And I give some examples, but the majority of the time I say, I can't think of anything. If you want to say it's a first or you believe it to be a first, like, it's up to you.
Yeah, because there's always the risk that it was like, in the Class D Interstate League in 1929, this thing happened, which is one of the funny things about minor league baseball is like there's no way to know everything because it's got such a deep and rich history.
Well, there's that aspect of it, but also just with so many teams doing so many things, it might even just be something that happened in the last 2-3 years that, just maybe wasn't publicized. And then a team says we're the first, and another team is like, well, actually, if you look at this, that happens all the time. So I usually tell teams when they ask me if I can't come up with a definitive example, I'll say, I believe it's the first. You can put it out there that it's the first. I mean, that's on you.
And then the groundhog will pop up and say, nope, we did it.
But be prepared for another team to say, well, actually, and that happens more often than not.
Yeah, but minor league baseball is also so localized that if people in Hartford believe it's the first, it's not going to affect them if people in Amarillo are like, no, we did that 2 years ago. It's like, okay, but you haven't done that in Hartford, Connecticut.
Yeah, I think people who work in the industry want bragging rights within the industry and say, like, we did this first. And so it's a funny dynamic, but it just shows how much is going on any given day, which is why we're still doing this podcast. And we do it year round.
Tons of material.
Yeah, and of course we have weeks where we're like, what are we doing on the pod? But more often than not, we're like, oh yeah, we'll do this, and this, whether it's February, whether it's August, whatever. There's always stuff to talk about in this world. And I think in our own ways, in our own spheres of coverage and interest, that's why we're still here, because we always have a lot to talk about.
All right, Ben. Well, you're hitting the road soon for Omaha and the swing through Iowa. What is there any special plan? These are places. The cool thing now is when you make trips, they're almost always return trips to places that you've been before, but in a lot of cases, places that you haven't been in a long time. What are you looking forward to on this one?
Yeah, these are just places I hadn't been to for a while. Omaha's a Thursday night, and it is take me out to the ball game. Take meow, meow, meow. Take me out to the ball game. I'm just making this worse. Meow, like a cat. That's what I'm trying to say. Take me out to the ball game.
Like a cat. I get it.
Yeah, it's like it's the cat version of Bark in the Park, and which are more common than ever, but I've actually never attended one. And just I can tell you who did that first. That was State College Spikes, like back in like 2010 or something. And I was all over it on Ben's Biz blog back in the day.
Seems like a real missed opportunity we don't have a lot of cat named teams anymore, do we?
Well, certainly not house cats.
Tigers don't count, obviously, like the Flying Tigers, but like,
Yeah,
you
the
know, there
River
used to be
Cats.
the River Cats. There used to be the Tri-City Valley
Fisher
Cats.
Cats. Yeah.
Fisher
Yeah.
Cats,
Fisher Cats are a
but
different
Fisher Cats are not a cat.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Or
and then
dog
in Des Moines, the Iowa Cubs, I haven't been there for a while. And I was in touch. One of the people I was in touch with reaching out before the trip is Scott Saylor. I don't know his job title now. Sometimes he just calls himself minor league baseball's oldest intern, but he's one of the greatest guys in the industry, Scott Saylor. Such a kind, knowledgeable guy. And he was like, you will actually be in Des Moines on the 95th anniversary of the first night game in professional baseball history, May 2nd, 1930. So I don't know what opportunities for coverage there will be, but he was like, maybe we can have a cake with like 95 candles or 95
light bulbs.
That's what he said. Yeah. So if there's some way to commemorate that, I think I didn't know that going in, but to be in Des Moines on the 95th anniversary of the first night game, I think is pretty cool.
Was that in Des Moines?
Yeah.
Okay. Because it's interesting that, like, you think about how long it took Wrigley to have a night game.
Yeah.
And their AAA affiliate had one 95 years ago.
Yeah. Wrigley had the first one in 88. Yeah.
First night game in Major League history was in 1935, which was the Cincinnati Reds at Crosley Field. Des Moines, that's interesting. I did not know that there was a Des Moines connection there as well. Of course, that was one of the, ways that teams tried to make money during the Depression was, teams kind of figured out, all right, well, if we can do the night game thing, we can get people out to the ballpark when they're done working, they can have some escapism, from the lives that are much of a struggle nowadays. The Negro Leagues, the Kansas City Monarchs started playing night games on like a traveling basis. I think in like 1930, they were sort of barnstorming around and took lights with them. But the thing that I find really interesting is that the generators back then were gas powered. So like, in addition to, playing under the lights and playing at nighttime, and it's something new already, you also had to play through like a fog of emissions from these giant diesel engines that were powering the lights, which for the novelty of it, I'm sure in the 1930s it was very cool. Now it sounds like if you told me like, well, you can go to this sporting event, but you have to sit and inhale gas fumes the entire time, I don't know how enjoyable it would be.
Yeah, probably not. But yeah, there was novelty in 1930, and Des Moines' team was the Demons. And
the Demons.
Scott sent me an old newspaper headline from the first night game, and it just said "Demons win night game," and I'm like, yeah, of course, the Demons are gonna win at night. That's when the Demons come out.
That was also the inspiration for Des Moines' Copa identity. The Demonios, which is very cool. All right, Ben. Anything else to prepare your longtime and stalwart Midwest listeners for the return of Ben's Biz to Omaha, Des Moines, and elsewhere?
That's about it. And we'll talk more next week before I go on the road. Yeah, we'll try to record my segment before I leave next Thursday. I'm going to have the entirety of my road trip itineraries in this week's edition of the Baseball Traveler newspaper. I would wish it to be a newspaper.
On your doorsteps every Thursday morning.
Newsletter, an e-newsletter. But on Thursday, that'll be in my newsletter. Look it up, the Baseball Traveler newsletter. Please subscribe. All my itineraries for 2025. And then that'll be a standalone article on MILB/MLB.com on Friday. And I'm scheduled to go on MLB Network tomorrow. I mean, we're recording this on a Tuesday. I'll be on the MLB Network on Wednesday. So by the time this episode comes out, check the socials. You can probably see a clip from my appearance on MLB Network's MLB Central. So looking forward to that. So a lot going on right now. We're all trying to keep our heads above water.
That is the name of the game, especially as we get through the first full month of the minor league baseball season. Benjamin Hill hitting the road coming up soon. For those of you in the traveling area, go see Ben at one of those Midwest ballparks. Ben, enjoy it, man.
Thanks, guys.
We are getting set to say goodbye on this week's episode of the show before the show, the historic 500th in the history of this. Someday it's going to be like, oh man, we're all on the verge, we're all on death's door, and your life flashes before your eyes. It's just going to be the two of you on a screen for me. Like what? what is that going to be? 10 years of my life. No, that would be a great thing to see. Neither of you was amused by that joke.
I don't know how you want me to say. Am I the one welcome?
Had to look at your big stupid face, Sam. Just
Yeah.
kidding. Okay, well, before we get out of here, we last week teased some major news about the Show Before the Show podcast, and it is not, although this is somewhat major news, it is not the promotion of MLB's number 35 overall prospect and the top prospect in the Oakland Athletics organization, Nick Kurtz, to the big leagues, although Nick Kurtz is headed to the big leagues. But we previewed some gigantic news, and that news is as follows. Mark your calendars right now for June 11th. June 11th in Somerset, New Jersey, at the home of the Somerset Patriots on Wednesday, June 11th. For the very first time, we will have the show before the show night at a minor league baseball ballpark, something that we first started to throw out several years ago, like kind of as a joke. And then Somerset got in touch with us actually last year, and we just never circled back to it. We never made anything happen. This year, Dave Merrick and the Somerset Patriots, after we threw out a comment early on about like, oh, episode 500 is coming up. When is a team going to invite us out to do show before the show? Dave emailed podcast@milb.com and was like, hey, no, we really want to do this. We threw this out last year. You guys didn't make it happen. We really want to make this happen. And we are doing it. June 11th in Somerset, the show before the show night at the home of the Somerset Patriots. The three of us will be on hand. We're going to try to talk Josh Jackson into coming down. Josh he's very particular when he leaves his compound. He's so dedicated to being our main bureau chief. He can't risk for a moment that he might miss something up there in Maine. But the three of us will be in attendance. We're going to be doing a segment of the show before the show pregame. We are going to be taking part in between inning contests. We'll be saying hello to fans. We were going to take BP, and I think Ben and I are still planning on doing it. Sam Dykstra, for whatever reason, was like, no, I'm not taking batting practice. You're like Jerry Seinfeld in the I Choose Not to Run episode. I don't know what Sam is so afraid of, that he's going to be hitting too many balls 500 feet out of the ballpark in Somerset, that, he's taken his route of being a writer and a prospect evaluator instead of a prospect himself. But that's all beside the point. The show before the show night coming up on June 11th in Somerset. I am so stoked for this. Guys, this we've talked about this for a long time. Honestly, never thought that it was actually going to happen, and now this is going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to happen. We really appreciate the Patriots for working on this. I know our listeners are scattered all over the country, perhaps even the globe. But if you're looking for a baseball road trip in the beautiful month of June in the Northeast, make a point to be in Somerset, New Jersey, Central New Jersey, Somerset County, New Jersey, June 11th. And it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a special ticket link for those who want to purchase tickets. I know at least a good amount of our listeners are in the Northeast and would want to come out, hang out with us, meet other listeners of the show. I know there's a community around everything we do, and we'd love to see you out there on June 11th at TD Bank Ballpark. That's what it's called, right? TD Bank Ballpark. June 11th, home of the Somerset Patriots. We'll do an on-site episode that day and be involved in as much as we can and have as many conversations with as many people as we can. And the three of us will be in one place for the first time, and who knows how
long time.
It'll be really exciting. So we're going to get all the details up there as soon as we can. I guess it's hard to provide links on a podcast, but on the podcast page and on our social media accounts and charitable component as well. It's going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm really looking forward to about this is that, like,
Not
Tyler
batting
said,
practice, we know.
no, not necessarily batting practice, but we're going to record a segment of the show before the game. We might do a Q&A as part of that. We'll see how logistics are going to work, but we're also going to be roaming around the ballpark. This is going to be another one of our episodes. Even if you can't go, we're going to include you in the experience somehow. We're going to take you through what it's like to be at a Somerset Patriots game. We're going to be interviewing players. We're going to be interviewing fans, front office members. This is a real opportunity that if you don't live in the Northeast, you're going to be along for the ride one way or another. And I'm really looking forward to it. We've done episodes like that before, but not all three of us in the same place. So this is a real special opportunity. I'll just echo everything you guys have said. Thank you to the Somerset Patriots for organizing this and reaching out and being proactive and saying yes to so many of our ideas so far. And who knows what still might come out. It's still late April. We're talking about mid-June here, but very excited to announce this and get it on everybody's calendars. So that's once again, June 11th, the show before the show night with the Somerset Patriots. Can't wait.
Very excited stuff. Bridgewater Township, by the way, is the hometown of the Somerset Patriots. I said it's in Somerset, New Jersey, which is technically correct. Somerset County, as Ben pointed out. But I texted my New York family and told them about this, and they said, wait, where is that? What town is that in? So I had to specify. But man, I'm super stoked to finally get a chance to do something like this at a ballpark with you guys. And, it's funny because we talked recently about the episode that we did, This Minor League Life, where we did an episode where we were all, at spring training parks and doing stuff around the atmosphere of a game and what it meant to, do all of these things in the prospect world. And I was like, well, that was pretty recent. That was episode 100. That was like 8 years ago, which is wild. You guys did one at a Brooklyn Cyclones game. Not too far back, but we've never done one all in the same ballpark, and I'm very stoked.
No, this is a real fun opportunity for us. And, hopefully, you never know. Maybe, like you said, this is the first one. What follows first is the second one. Other teams can see how this will work. And, maybe we expand beyond the Northeast, or maybe we do this every year with the Somerset Patriots. That would be a lot of fun too.
Maybe our careers will just become going from ballpark to ballpark, doing episodes of the Show Before the Show podcast.
I wouldn't turn it down. I think it'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, we'll get our riders together and let's go.
Let's make it happen. We could buy like the Show Before the Show RV. Just take our traveling circus on the road. Sounds like a blast to me. Well, you can, as Ben noted, you can check social media. You can check the site for the link. Somerset Patriots will be putting out their own release and all of that as well. And we are going to have a whole bunch of fun. So June 11th in Bridgewater Township, New Jersey, at the home of the Somerset Patriots, the show before the show night. And yeah, as Sam noted, just a massive thanks to Somerset for this. We hopped on our first call with Somerset a few weeks ago to talk about this. And I remember thinking like, oh, we'll log on. It'll be Dave and maybe like one other person. We logged on. It was like the entire Patriots front office was on this call. They're like, all right, what do you need as far as tickets? What are we going to do? Do you guys need stuff on the concourse? Are you going to need this? Are you going to need that? They are so locked in to make this thing happen for us. And it's A, very cool, and B, very overwhelming because I'm like, why would anyone take our silly little show this seriously? And it is so cool that they are into this, and we're pretty stoked with it. So June 11th, we will see you all there at the home of the Somerset Patriots. And that will do it for this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. Episode number 500 is in the books, and we're stoked for what is to come. For Sam Dykstra, for Benjamin Hill, for Josh Jackson, for Jake Seiner, for all the rest of us at MILB.com, MLB Pipeline, and through the Show Before the Show history. My name is Tyler Maughan, and we will catch you next week.